Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex and landed at episode number 35. And I don't know about you guys, but I've got a tingling sensation. Does that mean I'm going to be executed?
Not catching it.
Yeah, okay. Never mind.
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Tresselect?
Tresemme, that's like shampoo.
Tresselect.
Tresselect.
What's Tresselect?
What is Tresselect?
I'm referring to the new episode.
He watched it twice. We watched it one
Yeah,
time.
I know
You
why.
even laughed at
Right
it.
over my head.
When the
Tingling
antibodies are going to kill people, a couple times they said you may
You
experience
may
a slight
experience a slight
tingling
tingling.
sensation.
that was my
Honey, I like it's good.
That was my Borderlands reference. Because the antibodies come out and they're all like, please don't struggle while we attempt to kill you. And you might experience this. There are robots in Borderlands that come out and say things like that. Please don't struggle. Your death will be avenged eventually. And we have a nice coffin already picked out at taxpayer expense. And I mean, it's
okay.
right in line with that. And I thought, if Glenn likes that, he's got to like Borderlands.
I don't even remember it, so... Sorry, no Borderlands defense.
That's what I came up with this week.
That was good.
I'm
I like
Keith.
it now that you explained it to me. That's you. You're next.
I'm Shaun.
And I'm Glenn.
Thanks for listening to this week's Traveling the Vortex.
That's going to do it for this week.
We're in Bizarro seating. I'm still in the middle, but it's not
Backwards.
right.
How hard is that?
It's Bizarro seating.
It's
Well,
the
that's 'cause my
same as
computer's
before.
here.
It's just if we turned around, it's like we're behind the mic. If we turned around,
It's Bizarro seating. It's backwards.
we'd be
well,
right.
Backwards and
computer
reverse.
is behind us.
Yeah, so we're good.
So we're still right.
Right. In fact, it's in the same corner of the room
yeah.
now that it normally would be in. So.
Yeah.
I'm feeling out of touch with the natural order of things.
Well, how was your guys' week?
Good. Started vacation on Friday for me, so
Although
first day off.
What was it you called it? A
off this weekend.
staycation?
Staycation.
A
This is my
staycation.
staycation.
I enjoyed that
And
immensely.
that means I have to work later. Sarah's
Yeah.
not pleased with you.
Keith is covering my shift at work, so which is only an hour later than you usually come in and an hour later than you usually stay. So
Yeah, but she also has to work at the same time as
well,
Shaun in
that's
the morning.
true. That's true.
I started class this week, so I haven't been sleeping at all.
But big congratulations to Shaun.
Yeah.
Oh.
For your writing award in the film that we did last week, or you guys did last week, or 2 weeks
You're
ago.
in it.
I'm in it.
And he got credit.
I wrote it. Or didn't write it. You wrote it. I helped conceive
You
the
helped
story.
to see the story, and you're in it.
I'm in it, yeah. Anyway, yeah.
I thought your performance was a little static.
It was quite... I was just kind of... I was frozen.
It was like you were phoning it in.
Yeah,
It's
you know.
almost like you weren't even there. It's like we used a picture of it instead of your actual essence.
Shaun picked up an award for writing the story, and we also get Best Graphics as well. So
Which
Best
is
graphics.
better than we did last year when we only got Best Special Effects.
Yes.
So we got two
I
awards
it's
this year.
considered
It's-
improvement,
It's
absolutely.
improvement, yeah.
So Shaun now has a writing award credit to his name.
Now he has a giant ego about it.
I don't have a giant ego. I honestly, especially with this one, I could not have done it, obviously, without...
When you got the text, because of course none of us got to go. When you got the text, were you just beaming when you saw that?
I was kind of shocked,
Wait, what?
actually, just a little bit.
He's still in shock because he's
I'm
not
still,
saying
well,
it.
yeah. The text came in, and it was kind of. We just actually, Mel and I went down to the pool, so I had just finished. I had the towel over my head and everything, and I'm walking up to it, and I picked up my phone and looked at it, and blink, it popped up. Congrats on best writing. And I heard from Sarah before I heard from anybody else, and
I
it was like
texted you when I found out.
hers came in first. So it's like
He's cooler.
Apparently, I know who has priority
Okay.
on the phone. I need to be concerned.
You should hear her ringtone. No, I'm not going to that. But it was just kind of like, oh, I didn't know Sarah went. And that kind of threw me off the whole. And then I heard from you, hey, congrats on best writing. And I'm like, they must have gone together. No, Keith works. And I couldn't, my brain kept trying to get back to that moment. How did they find out? And then I saw Dave's Facebook post.
Well, I
and it
think
was
I
like,
replied to you and said Dave posted it on Facebook.
Well, because I texted you and asked.
Oh, yeah.
Did you go? I was more concerned about who was there than the actual win. But
I think it was just Dave and Laurie, right?
yeah, it was just Dave and Laurie.
Yeah. So.
But at any rate, I'm very, very happy and couldn't
we're
be
very excited.
Couldn't be more
Yeah.
thrilled.
Because that's very awesome. I mean, these are
That
for
is
people
one of
that
the
don't
highest
understand,
awards for the.
This,
in my
our
opinion.
movie does not move on, so that's kind of bittersweet about it. But you have to understand that Shaun got a Best Writing award against a film that is going to potentially go on to Cannes.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you wrote a better story than the story. Unfortunately, the story that won. Which did you guys happen to watch it today?
I did.
I saw Dave
posted
it.
We were so much better, but that maybe that's a biased opinion.
That's
but
what he said on Facebook.
the
that it
acting,
was so
our
much
acting
better.
was even better, and that's always been our weakest point. No offense, Keith. That's always been our weakest point is our acting.
Well,
and
this time I didn't have
I thought
tons of dialogue
I
to
thought
remember.
well,
You're still going to rag me over the coals for that.
you still do a fine job.
Well,
There are
thank
just
you.
there you do a fine job, but I always see a lot of these films where I think, okay, these guys have just been acting for years. They
Oh,
get
well,
people
yeah.
that have been doing it, and they're people that are less than better, or not better, different than staged actors as well. Which I think that's where a lot of your background
that
is
is
in
where
stage.
all of mine comes from.
But our acting was so much better this time. I thought you and Amber both did a fantastic job, and it was so much better than what I saw in the one that was posted today. But
What about me, Glenn?
Well, you
your
were a
acting
little
is
over the
just
top.
fine. But your character was supposed to be over the top, so hayseed and all.
I'm so hick.
Yeah. So
I'm so disappointed in that too because I did.
With my
I
bracers.
I pulled weeds out of Dave's yard before we left to go shoot the cornfield scene, and had this thing sticking out of my mouth, and was all practicing talking with it, bobbing up and down, and all that kind of stuff. And so in all of the far shots, I've got this thing in my mouth, and Amber shoots me, and I fall. Spoilers. I get shot, and I fall, and I threw myself back. Boom! Right, and the thing flew out of my mouth, and I forgot about it. So all of the close-up shots, it's not there where it would have mattered.
Well, you want to know the saddest thing about that? I grew up in western Kansas. That's farmland. That's wheat land. That's where all the wheat is grown in the state. And I saw your portrayal of that, and my first thought was, what is he doing with a stalk of wheat in his mouth standing in front of a cornfield? That was my first thought, honest to God.
It was a weed.
Yeah, well, but it looks
'Cause
like
it had the-
it
it looked
looks
like
like
wheat.
it looks like a wheat. It looks
Yeah,
like
it's-
which is the idea
it
because
had the
that's what they
fluffy-
would do.
yeah.
They didn't stick weeds in their mouth. They stuck shocks of wheat in their, heads of wheat in their
Come to
mouth.
think of it, this is actually the second time I've eaten weeds out of Dave's yard in a film.
But I saw
I-
that, and my first thought was, what's he got a piece of wheat in his mouth while he's standing in front of a cornfield?
I
And
got
then
back
I thought,
in the
well,
van
maybe he
later.
just came from the wheat field down the road, and now he's checking on the corn.
I have a
But,
very large plantation.
I got in the van later that we were using, which you rode in. There was another piece of weed in there.
Yeah, I pulled two just in case.
No, we're talking about. I'm not talking
Not-
about
not-
pot. We're
not
talking
marijuana.
About, we're talking about weed, like an actual weed,
Like a weed. They
like
probably
an invasive
it-
plant that
it was
grows in
probably
your yard and kills your
overgrown
grass.
grass.
well, it was probably coated with Roundup or DD-214 or
You
something.
weren't feeling
and
very well later that night.
you-
That might have been the cause.
I'm gonna sprout a third eye and an extra arm.
That would be so cool.
Yeah,
In fact, if you do, let me know where that weed's at because I'm going to go get some. And
I could always use an extra arm.
Possible side effects. Hey, superpowers. Cool. And that thump you just heard was Glenn kicking the microphone again.
Seem to keep from doing that.
Normally it's me.
Used to be. Now it's all me.
Well, here.
Okay, thanks.
Now you feel better.
Anyway,
Any-
so congratulations.
Do you want to kick the microphone too?
No, I don't want to kick the microphone. I don't want to deafen our
And
listeners
the
more.
the film was terrific, and I enjoyed it, and I hope the listeners got a chance to look at it. We did get a lot of compliments.
yeah,
on
we
it,
did.
Yeah, we did. And again,
Mark Lee, the biggest compliment I'd ever seen,
Yeah.
said best short film he'd ever seen.
Yeah,
I don't know how many short films he's seen.
Yeah, my first thought when I read that was, well, you've probably seen two then.
But either way, we appreciate the support.
we do appreciate the support and the fact that you guys liked it, and I'm very appreciative. And I had a speech prepared, but I threw it away, and so it was poorly written.
I stole the idea from somebody.
Actually, you know my Oscar speech? If I ever win an Oscar, I've got this planned out. I want to bring the Micro Machine guy with me, and I want to write like a 900-page thank you script.
Yeah.
And then just give it to him and have him go, blah, 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 and then I'll say thank you at the end of it. And then the second speech I have prepared is I have to end with San Dimas High School football rules. Look that one up, nerds.
If you're nerdy enough, you don't even have to look it up.
they should
In
know.
fact,
You
a
should
movie
know.
that has to do with time travel.
Look at me bringing us back
in a
on
phone
point.
box. Anyway.
Any other news this week? Doctor Who's back?
Is it?
I think so.
I think that show started on Friday.
Did it?
No, it started on Saturday. Did you guys get your stickers?
But Shaun had everybody from last week's show waiting with bated breath on Friday going, I know, he told me it was on tonight.
He wouldn't lie to me. Yeah, I would.
It was... No, it wouldn't even been kind of on Friday here because it was Saturday by the time it was showed in the UK.
Yeah,
so
it was-
6
yeah.
hours
I
ahead
was
of us.
still wrong. But what else was going on this week?
I think that's about it.
I
It's
think
all been
maybe
hype
about it.
leading up to Let's Go
Yeah,
Hitler.
and there was a lot of hype this week. I think there was a prequel trailer. There was
Oh, yeah,
a lot
there
of
was a
things,
prequel.
yeah, a lot of things going on. So
The version that we watched, some of us twice, did not have the motion comic.
it didn't.
No.
No.
Oh, okay.
Did you get to see that?
I didn't get to see the motion comic.
I would
but
like to
haven't
see the
seen it.
motion comic at some point if somebody can point me in a direction of where one
It's
might
probably on
find such a
the
thing.
BBC. They've been using those and
Well,
not being regional.
what I've heard
so.
from the Twitter
It'd be on
fans,
the BBC America.
it's on BBC America has aired it, but the BBC did not, and
Oh.
everybody in the UK was kind of upset at that. So
Okay.
if somebody knows, obviously correct me because I am frequently wrong. But yeah, apparently it was just a BBC America thing. So
Huh. Okay. Well, I saw this week's Insider, but and when I mean that, I mean the Doctor Who Insider that airs on BBC America, not Doctor Who Insider magazine.
I got the Get Glue sticker for the motion comic.
Oh,
I
you
didn't get
did?
the sticker
Oh.
for the motion
You,
comic.
you had to type motion comic. That had to be your comment, and then you got an extra sticker.
Well, I
Is
still
it a
got the
comic
Amy
sticker?
and Laurie. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, very cool.
I saw it on Get Glue. I just didn't know how to get it.
I figured you would have seen my posting because, of course, well,
I didn't.
I
I don't send tweets via text message anymore.
I checked into Get Glue. Let's kill Hitler, and nothing happened because they said make sure you use the secret phrase and get a bonus sticker. And I thought, well, it's got to be "Let's kill Hitler," right? I mean, that's the phrase. So I tweeted, "Let's kill Hitler." Nothing happened. Let's
Well,
kill
you got
Hitler.
the-
Nothing happened. I'm looking at the tweet stream, and everybody in the world is watching "Let's Kill Hitler," and I'm like, why isn't this working? Let's kill Hitler. Let's kill Hitler. Let's kill Hitler. And I checked into it like 9 times, then realized, dummy, it's a BBC America sticker. So it won't be on when everybody in the UK is watching. I have to wait.
yeah.
So then I waited. And then I tweeted, "Let's kill," or I get glued. "Let's kill Hitler," and the sticker popped up.
I'll
But
be
that
darned.
wasn't the motion sticker, and I was like, well, it's a motion comic. Let's try that. Motion comic, bing.
Ding.
It was almost anticlimactic after all of it. It felt very much like the hype. It was so hyped up. I got to get my sticker on Get Glue, and then it wasn't there.
I'll be darned.
I'm fine with not getting the motion comic sticker.
You can look at mine
Yeah.
when it arrives in the mail, which it won't.
Have you ever gotten your
I
sticker?
have never gotten
Never
a
got,
sticker.
I've gotten my 2 rounds now so far.
I've
of stickers.
asked for 2 rounds and I haven't gotten the first round
Oh,
yet.
wow.
I've asked for 3 and haven't.
I can't find my
Now, the
first
third
round
one's
of
probably
stickers now,
theoretically
but
still coming, but-
they didn't have any cool ones in there anyway. No offense, Get Glue.
My
The
first
second round was one that had
I
my
blame
Dr.
you
Who
as a
in it.
viewer. That's your problem.
Well, you get all the. You unlock this. You checked in for the first time. You
Congratulations
used your
on
Android
being
phone.
a fan of this. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. Well, since there's no other news, let's move on to feedback.
Okay, absolutely.
We are going to launch into feedback, but first, the retraction of Rassilon. This was a piece of feedback that was sent a while back, but it came to us through, in a way, kind of an unusual channel. This came from Facebook, and we missed. Who was it we missed? You'd missed previously.
I missed Mark's.
You missed Mark's the week.
The weekend of my birthday and move.
Okay. This, I think, was the same week.
I don't
Or
check Facebook
earlier.
for feedback.
Well, I
you
haven't.
don't tell them to go to Facebook. To
No,
send
no,
us
no. Well,
feedback.
but he did.
But they can.
They can, absolutely.
Shaun
they
apparently
can.
checks that.
Well, I have all my Facebook notifications sent to my email, so then it popped up on my phone. And when you had forgotten to do what's his name, and then or Mark, and you'd come back and said, "Oh, we forgot to do Mark," I realized, "Oh, we forgot to do Phil," because Phil sent us a piece of feedback, and it's just a little one from our review of the 5 Doctors. But I apologize, Phil. Totally my fault, because then Keith rectified his mistake and got Mark's email in, and I still forgot you. So I did it twice, and so that's my bad. But Phil wrote in on our Facebook page and said, "Guys, I don't know if this is a Region 2 only thing, but you must
I
check
did
this
see
out
this.
if possible."
Yeah, I did see this.
On the UK release of the 5 Doctors Special Edition, there was a very special Easter egg. In addition to the ordinary commentary track, there was a hidden second commentary by New Who producer Phil Collison, New Who writer and script editor Helen Rayner, and David Tennant. It's absolutely hilarious, a real joy to listen to, and so reassuring to know that the makers of the new series are massive Who geeks just like the fans. Seriously, you haven't heard it yet, you must try to find it. It's legendary. And so thank you very much for that little tidbit, Phil. I have not had a chance to dig my copy back out because, well, school
Your
started.
copy's wrong. Yours would have been done before. It would have to be on my copy.
Oh, you're right. My release copy. So it'd have to be on the new special
Tenet,
edition.
yeah,
All right, Glenn, that's your assignment for this week since you're on
I
vacation.
believe it is. After I was at work when I read that, and I did some internet searching, and from what I can understand, the 25th anniversary, or the 25th anniversary edition does have it. Region 1 does have that Easter egg on it.
Okay,
now,
so
I haven't verified that by actually popping the disc in and checking, but from what I could gather from online, it is actually on the...
So for those of you
Region
that
1.
are trying to, or if you're visual people like me, it's the one with the kind of goldish brown circle
in
group
fact,
cover.
It's the...
It's the version we watched for Friday Night Who.
It's the spine that bugs the heck out of me because it's
wrong.
brown and
It's
has
the
an
wrong
orange.
color.
Yeah, it drives me nuts because it sets in my Davison era on my shelf, and it's the only oddball spine, but it has the orange color that is the new logo color. It's not the new logo, but it's the same color, the same oranges in it. So
It's kind of gold, but
yeah,
It's more goldish,
orange
in my
and gold.
opinion.
It's kind of a mesh of several different.
which for a 25th anniversary is still wrong. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
but so yeah, it would be that one and not the alternate group photo where they lifted shots from actual episode.
Right.
Tom Baker punting and whatnot,
Absolutely.
which is the one I have. So, but thank you, Phil. Okay,
Yes.
I'm done. Retraction complete.
All right.
Wow,
First
that
up,
sounded-
I guess second up.
Yeah, so Phil's technically not first up.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna have to adjust all my numbers for all this.
Because
Yeah,
you
we're
took
reading out
such
Saint
detailed show notes.
I did.
Where's your
All
notes?
In my head. Frando
Hi, Frando.
says, "Greetings, gents. Since you were nice enough to gush over my one-sentence email last time, I thought I would send in a proper feedback this time.
Hey, Frando was one of those listeners that never sent feedback, and then he did,
And he did.
and
Now
now he's feeding again.
He's
Feedback
second-time
again.
writer. I'm probably older than your average listener, as I have been involved in Doctor Who fandom since 1980. My fondest Doctor Who memory is attending a Doctor Who convention here in Denver in 1982, which had John Pertwee, Liz Sladen, Anthony Ainley, and Sarah Sutton as the guests.
Wow, good lineup.
Yeah. While Sutton and Ainley were had little contact with the fans, Pertwee and Sladen actually hosted the event.
Did you just say Sladen?
He did.
Sladen, sorry. Actually hosted the event and were on stage for the entire convention. Both always very friendly and approachable, and had a lot of great stories to tell. But for me, the highlight of the convention was, at one point, Pertwee showed a couple of episodes of his then current TV series, Worzel Gumridge. John sat in the audience with the fans as the episodes were being shown, and as luck would have it, he decided to sit next to me.
Ooh.
How cool is that?
is awesome.
That is so awesome.
That is bow tie.
Oh, I am jealous.
I'm
Especially
jealous.
As big of a Pertwee fan I am, and
Yeah.
I'm so saddened by the fact that I will never get to see him
You weren't
in
even
person.
around in 80, but
I wasn't around in 82.
you were a glimmer in your
2
dad's
years
eye.
later, I would have been born.
Yeah.
I don't know when Pertwee
Wow, not
passed.
to call him out or anything, but Frando actually is a little bit older than our average listener.
Considering
He-
at least
he-
one
he-
is still in their teens.
He might be up there in our bracket,
I'm
Glenn.
sure he might be older than us, yeah.
Well, don't make him too old.
I didn't come to Doctor Who until about 83, 84, so, yeah.
John Pertwee has been my favorite Doctor ever since.
Oh, yeah.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I would give that to him.
Regarding the two Doctors, this is one of the very few Doctor Who stories I actually hate. To have Patrick Troughton in a story and then keep him off screen for most of the story is such a waste.
Agreed.
Then there's Shockeye. Never has there been a character in Doctor Who managed to suck the life out of every scene he is in the way Shockeye does. Well, enough ramblings for now. Keep up the great podcast, Frando.
I think Frando summed up or echoed our sentiments that we had last week.
I don't know. I'd have the sucking the life out of every scene. I think might have.
We didn't quite go that far.
It might. It might have to go to one of the vampires. Get it?
Thanks again for
Sometimes
sending
we
back
just
in,
humor Shaun.
Yeah.
These jokes.
Frando.
I like my jokes. No, thank you, Frando. Next piece of feedback, which would be 3 on Keith's revised chart, comes
See, the chart's all messed up.
comes from Alex Smith.
Oh, you got to read the title.
I'm sorry, that amuses me for some reason there. Where's the title?
Traveling what?
Traveling TEHVO.
Okay.
It's being cut off.
Okay.
But it's not.
I know. I don't know how.
I don't even know how to make it. Got to us. That's kind of cool, though.
It worked.
Alex Smith has the coolest email program ever because he could write Santa Claus on it and the letter would get to him. Sorry, Alex. Alex writes, "Sorry, Chrissy. Hey guys, me again. I'm just now listening to your discussion from last week about Tom Baker's popularity within the fandom and about how different people prefer different doctors. I thought I'd write in to give my view on the situation. First of all, Chrissy, you're not alone. I'm also not a big fan of the 4th Doctor. It's not that I dislike him. I like all the doctors."
No, I did that last week.
We have paddles ready to revive you this time. I like all the doctors, but his portrayal is one of my least favorites. I find him less interesting because he lacks the character quirks that make some of the other doctors so fun to watch. The 6th Doctor's arrogance or the 9th Doctor's anger, for example. He's more of an archetype. He has the basic elements that make up the Doctor's personality, but, for me at least, he doesn't add anything new or unique into the character. Bear in mind, though, that I joined the show with Tennant, and I'm a huge 10th Doctor fan, so maybe I just feel that anything Baker did, David Tennant did better, as the two are very similar.
That's what Jennings accused me of, is doing things backwards.
Well, but he's coming to it backwards. And you're coming to it
I'm
backwards.
back.
It's funny, I'll forgive him before I forgive him.
Thanks.
I like Alex better, what can I say? Secondly, since we're talking about the doctors we're not very fond of, I guess this is a good time to throw out there that my least favorite doctor is... Sorry, Chrissy. Spoilers there. Peter Davison. He's still fun to watch, but the way he plays the character just doesn't feel very doctor-like to me. He's very human as a character, which means that in times of crisis he often seems panicked and vulnerable. And that just isn't how I imagine the Doctor to be. At 500-plus years, he should be 3 steps ahead and always on top of the situation. Pretending to be out of his depth when it works to his advantage, well, that's fine. Being scared of the Daleks, or maybe the Master, that's okay as well. But the 5th Doctor seems genuinely afraid of his enemies so often, and genuinely outsmarted by villains so often, it diminishes him as the Doctor for me. Admittedly, Hartnell portrayed the Doctor in a similar manner, but Hartnell's Doctor is the youngest of them all, despite his appearance, and so I think it's more acceptable. By the time Davison rolled around in the early 80s, the Doctor as a character had evolved to become much more unfazable and calculating, but Davison's performance doesn't really reflect that. Please note this is all just opinion. Don't hurt me, Chrissy.
I have to... I'm going to defend Davison, because I like that aspect of Davison, of what I've seen. It brings the humanity back to the Doctor after being calculating and 10 steps ahead. It brings that humanity and humility back to the Doctor as a character.
You want to chime in on that?
I have to say I agree with everything that Alex says about the 5th Doctor and disagree with everything that Alex says about the 4th Doctor. So I don't know, maybe I'm...
I kind of fall in the same...
Way to waffle, guys.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I kind of fall in the same boat. I think Baker's portrayal of the Doctor, I thought, was...
Full of quirks.
Yeah. and almost more alien, because there are
Yes.
times when he seems very aloof.
And disconnected.
Especially
especially to humans.
Well, especially in the Sarah Jane
Yes,
stories.
yes.
For as good as a pairing as they were, and for as much fun as they were obviously having, there are other times when he is so distant that...
I think that helps the Sarah Jane pairing, because Sarah is
Grounds
so...
him and brings him back.
Yeah.
Well,
and
and
so human
Right.
in her reactions.
But Tom Baker's Doctor was kind of the first one that, you know, when Pertwee or Troughton or even Hartnell walked into a room full of bad guys, you kind of had an inkling of which way this was going to go.
Yep.
Baker would walk into a room full of bad guys, and he'd shoot the fish tank. You just never, maybe, I don't know. I don't know that.
Nice way to get a loaded
A lethal weapon in there. Did you like that?
Joke in there. It was good.
I don't know that I totally disagree with him on Pertwee or on Pertwee on Davison, because I think Davison did bring him back to being more human.
I agree.
Than what Tom Baker's portrayal was.
Not that it was a bad thing.
And I don't think it was a bad
love
thing.
Humanity in the
in
Doctor.
fact, I think going
Matt
that
Smith has some of
I
that
think
too.
going that direction with the Doctor was most appropriate, especially coming off the Fourth Doctor's era, coming out off of Tom Baker's. I was about to mash up Teeter Davison and Tom Baker. No, Tom Baker's portrayal, coming off of Baker's portrayal of it, it almost needed a different approach, and that was the direction Davis took with it.
Yeah.
And I don't fault him for that, but I would agree with a lot of those statements that he's...
I guess I could agree with his statements, but I don't think it's a bad thing.
But the problem with Davison, sorry, Chrissy, there's not a lot of energy there with the Doctor. It's almost it's more of a subdued, more pacifist. Even though Davison doesn't hesitate to pick up a gun in any of his tenure as the Doctor, but he seems to be more of the subdued.
I guess I just need to see more Davison.
Laid back.
Maybe that's it. We're maybe having you do a disservice
More
by chiming in.
Doctor.
He is a little more vulnerable.
Yeah.
He's a little more feeling about things too, in
Yeah.
some ways. So
See, and
that's not a bad thing.
That's what gives him the human attributes, I think, as well.
Last but not least, could you tell Mark that his DVDs slipped a time track and fell back to 1963, where they inspired head of drama Sidney Newman to create a TV show about a man who traveled in time and space in a blue box. Naturally, this caused a paradox, as the DVDs were responsible for their own creation, and the resulting space-time cataclysm, the DVDs were destroyed. In other words, I may have lost them. Sorry. You're soon to be murdered by Mark and Chrissy fan, Alex. And once again, if you'd like Traveling the Vortex to repo any of your items that have been lost to a careless friend who let them slip into a time track, just send us feedback. You can find it on our website.
We'll read anything.
And now the ingredients of mac and cheese.
Our next bit of feedback comes from Holly Mac.
Hi, not Glenn's wife.
This is Holly from Wisconsin, as we all know. She says, "Hey guys, for what it's worth, if any of your listeners happen to have the season pass on iTunes for Doctor Who Series 6 Part 2, there is a download available, and it does contain spoilers for an episode that won't be airing for some time. I won't spoil you on it here, but if you must know, you can get in contact with me on Twitter or via my email address, Holly in Wisconsin." Why did we read that out? It was almost a personal note to us.
I don't think it was.
She says if any of your listeners.
Any of your listeners.
Oh, she does say that. Okay.
She was trying to warn people of spoilers.
Well, I don't want to give out Holly's Gmail, so I suppose contact us directly if you're interested in what that is, and we'll get with Holly and find out what the link is.
We will give you her Twitter account. I think we'd be okay with that.
Absolutely.
Which is Holly, HOLLYMAC _79.
Yeah.
On Twitter.
And I actually read this earlier today, and it piqued my interest. So I have seen, as I talked
did
about
you go
earlier.
look?
No, I haven't yet. But I have. I don't have season pass either. But I have seen something from the. We talked about this before. Meredith Vieira. Is that how you say his last name? Vieira did a special on Doctor Who and aired some clips from a much later. In this season.
Okay, I remember
and I'm wondering if some of that is going to be the same. Not that particular clip, but some of the things that they showed in that might be the same things that she's talking about as in this. So it did pique my interest, and I might be curious to go find that out as well. But I'll have to see about getting a season pass if I do. So
I wonder if it's available if you don't have a season pass.
I don't know. I'll do some checking, and like I say, we'll certainly put listeners in contact with Holly if they're interested in that. So,
yes.
or at least finding out what that is, because she may just divulge the information to us too if we like. So
I'm going to.
I don't want to know.
I do want to know, but at the same time, I don't want to be spoiled.
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
should we have her send it to me, and then I'll decide whether to divulge it to you guys?
That'd be fine.
That gives you the power.
The power. I have the power. That's Glenn at travelingvortex.com, Holly. Send it away.
He's done a good job keeping the Meredith Vieira stuff secret.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
He's not bursting at the
Because
seams.
I have the power.
or threatening to put chairs on us and say, I know what happens.
Next, the last bit of feedback we have for this section,
Yes.
because we have 2 more pieces of feedback that we will read before we launch into Let's Go Hitler. Just want to get that out there, so...
Before we launch into killing Hitler.
Yes.
I'm ready to kill Hitler.
Which has very little to do with the whole... Sorry, go ahead. We'll get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
This is from Mark Lee.
Hi, Mark.
This is the feedback of Rassilon.
Dun-dun-dun.
Hi guys, first of all, congrats on making such a brilliant short film. I especially love the fact that you guys love Tangent so much that you actually named a character after them. Mrs. Tangent and her cats. You want to address that?
The character Samantha Tangent, who was the animal psychologist, actually
wasn't by our design.
It wasn't by our design. In a fun bit of serendipity, that was the assignment from the 48-hour film project. You're given we drew a genre out of the hat, which was ours was dark comedy, and then we were assigned a character, a prop, and a line of dialogue. And the character was Sam or Samantha Tangent, who has to be an animal psychologist. The prop was the alarm clock, and then the line of dialogue was...
You wrote it.
Well, that wasn't mine.
Yeah, but you had to write it in the script.
Is that clear? Any questions?
Yes, that's right.
And so we had to work all that into the script. That's how they know you did it in the 48-hour time frame. So, yeah.
Which, I have to say, out of all of our short films... This one seemed the most seamless for the criteria. It didn't
feel like we shoehorned it in.
Yeah.
I would agree.
It didn't seem out of place at all.
Don't dream it. We kind of... Of course, that one...
Out of the ones I've heavily been involved in.
Well, okay, I'll give you that.
Hardly in.
Well, that one's almost a cheat, too, because all we did was they give us this list of criteria, and we made it a honey-do list. So it was kind of... But... And those films are available on Facebook if you'd like to see them. But you have to be my friend...
Or mine. I think I'm connected to them all, too.
Or Glenn.
I'm only connected to the ones I'm involved in.
Glenn phones his performances in, so...
I do.
Anyways.
I phoned that one in, too. I think I gave you guys some ideas on that one.
I think
I wasn't there that week.
We have to explain the joke that's running through that. Is that Glenn is in the film, the new film exclusive, but it's a picture of Glenn. So he's not really in it.
And I did help
But he did.
absolutely.
He absolutely did help conceive the story.
Which I was very grateful for the writing credit, or the story credit on.
You should get a story credit.
Even though it was conceived before the weekend started.
Yeah, kind of. We're always formulating ideas, though.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Anyways, back to
feedback.
back to Mark's. Anywho. In the
As the welt grows.
What?
As the welt grows.
Oh.
Go ahead.
Anywho, in the episode of Rassilon, one of you, I think it was Shaun, mentioned an 8th Doctor audio which had the black swirling triangle from the 5 Doctors in it. Do you by any chance remember which one this was? Thanks in advance.
And I meant to look it up beforehand because I did read your email before the show and forgot.
And Mark, he will email you back.
I will find out and email you a
somebody.
response.
And hopefully for the listeners that are interested, we'll let you know next week.
He continues to say, do you guys listen to
It's
many
gonna
Big
bug me
Finish?
now.
I was just wondering because I've been mainlining them lately, and I heavily recommend the 6th Doctor audios. The writers knew how to write for Colin's Doctor, unlike J&T after he went crazy. Before I forget, I must comment on the excellent views and opinions Chrissy has had lately. The 5 Doctors being like a family reunion, and crap, I forgot the other one. That was a huge fail on my behalf. Anyway, Chrissy, keep the great views coming because they are fresh and make me see episodes of Classic Who in a different light. Much like Shaun/Glenn and his views on Love and Monsters.
Is that because you couldn't remember, Mark?
I think
which
that was. It was Glenn.
I'm going to fully give Glenn credit on Love and Monsters, although I did like it. But
Last but not least, I've been thinking about the questions Alex asked, and to answer, if you could erase one thing from the Doctor Who canonicity, Did I say that right?
Sure.
Canosity, sure.
Yeah, okay. What would it be? And I thought the perfect thing to erase would be the regeneration limit. The way things are going, Doctor Who may only last another 10 years or so on TV. Please, Moffat, I know you're listening to this podcast. Get rid of the regeneration limit. Our future generations depend on you. And that's all for now. It's time for this message of Rassilon to come to an end. From Mark.
As always, Mark, thank you. Yes, we do listen to Big Finish, although I think it's fairly safe to say that we're all fairly new to it.
Yeah, I still haven't listened to too much because I don't have the time.
And
I have one podcast that I listen to regularly, and it takes me a week to get through it.
we're sort of listening to different spectrums of Big Finish too, because I've heard a lot of the old school stuff, and Shaun's listening to a lot of the Eighth Doctor audio, and you just started some of the old school as well.
I'm starting the old school Eighth Doctor only.
Yeah, so we've all listened.
I'm being
to,
very specific.
I mean,
on
I
what
went
I'm
back
listening
to square one and started with I think it was Sirens of Time, which is the first one, and it's a multi-Doctor story, sort of. And well, it is. It does. It rounds out that way.
How come we didn't review it?
Well, I could have. I could have done a special. So I have heard at least probably 5 or 6 audios of the Sixth Doctor, because what they would do is they do them in rotation back then. And I think I got up to, I want to say number 20 something before I fell off listening. And this has been years ago, but I would concur with Mark that the Sixth Doctor, they really do, they write for him so well, and that's made me grow in appreciation for not only the Sixth Doctor, but for Colin Baker just as an actor, and he does a fantastic job. And I really, in fact, the more I listen to Sixth Doctor audios, the more I pine or regret the fact that they weren't able to do more with him on the TV series, and that he had such a falling out in the early days. And I would absolutely have loved to see more Sixth Doctor on broadcasts on TV as well. It's not so, and luckily we have the Big Finish audios to kind of fill in the gaps. So.
Same thing with Eighth Doctor. Because Eighth Doctor.
Well, but that's by another design.
Oh yeah, that's true.
But yes, no, absolutely. I think the Eighth Doctor.
From what I've heard of the Eighth Doctor,
getting the benefit of that, and Shaun will talk more about that when we get to it.
Yeah, I have been very. Of course, I was enamored with the TV movie. We all know that. I have been very enamored with Paul McGann's audio adventures as the Eighth Doctor. They've been fun. They've been well written, and just listening. Paul McGann's got a great voice anyway. But to listen to him and do the Doctor, it's a real joy. So I'm looking forward to starting some of the older school ones, which is probably going to be next.
Now you're caught up to date, aren't you?
I actually just finished the 4th season of the Paul McGann 8th Doctor Adventures. So I've heard all of that, but that's the only Big Finish I've listened to so far has been the Paul McGann stuff. So, but
well, shall we start Key to Time?
Let's do it. Do we do Key first, or do we do?
We do Key first.
We do Key first.
We do Key first. Okay,
That's
let's
how
do
we
it.
did last time.
Because we make people wait
Oh, we
for the new
did,
stuff.
did we? Didn't we? We sure did.
Just in case you're in Australia.
Yep.
And it hasn't aired
Well,
yet.
because we're going to have to spoiler warn you there.
We're back on that rotation.
That's right. Sorry, Reese.
The Rebos operation. How do we determine that was?
Rebos. Yeah.
Rebos.
No, Ribos. Ribos.
Rebos.
Ribos.
I always thought it was Ribos.
We were saying Ribos, and then Shaun asked me if it was Rebos or Ribos, and I said, oh, it's Ribos. And then we watched it and realized it was Ribos. We were completely wrong.
Ribos.
Both ways, so Ribos.
The Doctor is summoned by the mysterious and powerful White Guardian and sent on a quest to find the 6 segments of the Key to Time, which once assembled will restore balance to the universe. Joining the Doctor and K9 is the smart and sassy Romana, a Time Lord fresh from the Academy. Wouldn't that be Time Lady? Anyway, landing on the wintry planet of Rebos. To locate the first segment, the Tardis crew quickly find themselves embroiled in a little local trouble with a pair of conmen and an unstable warlord.
I'm going to quantify this.
This does not deserve a dun-na-na.
Key to Time. Dun-na-na. Rebos. Not so much.
Silence. Will fall. Yeah. This has to be one of the worst Tom Baker stories I've seen.
It's a rough start.
It is a very rough start. I can understand why Chrissy didn't make it through the first time.
Yeah, can't falter for it.
Oh, man, is this...
Especially since she hates Tom Baker. No.
And it's not necessarily bad. There's good elements to it. It's just, overall, more than Doctor Who and the Daleks, it feels dragged out. There's so much of the con man stuff that I don't care about. I don't need to know about this. Let's just get the piece of the key and move on.
The con men were interesting because they were fun. The Warlord was not.
No, not at all.
You want to talk about a character that sucked the life out of every scene that he was in.
Or as Chrissy called it, nod the scenery.
Yeah. It was...
Scenery chewing.
Yeah.
It was very... over the top, very... it was like he didn't get the memo that this is Doctor Who.
And we're referring to Graf Vindicay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gruff.
Vindicay.
Gruff Vindicay. He felt he was doing a period piece, and he created this elaborate backstory for his character, and then proceeded to tell us about it.
Yeah.
And it was like, really? I don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's weird because sometimes that's cool. Sometimes when you get a character and you want more of how did you wind up in this position, and then they give it to you in this little exposition, and you're cool. This guy kind of forced the exposition on us, and I don't necessarily want to blame the actor, although that certainly some of the fault definitely lies there. I think it's just poorly written, and he did the best probably with what he was given. But the con men were at least fun. It may not have been.
They were all right.
I mean, it kind of reminded me of the what's his name in Carnival of Monsters.
Okay. I can see that a little
I
bit.
kind of had that feel to it, or Harry Mudd,
That's what
doing the Star Trek.
That's what I liked
about the first half. I didn't care about his storyline until it actually started directly relating to the Doctor in Carnival of Monsters.
Yeah.
It seemed so disjointed at the beginning of Carnival of Monsters and then gelled at the end.
That's what I liked about Garen, is he reminded me, and I said this when we started watching it, he's always reminded me of Harry Mudd from the Star Trek series. And he just seems to be that con man that's always trying to pull a fast one to try to work that con and for financial gain. And that's what his character really felt. And so I actually enjoyed that. I think the actor that plays him might have gone a little over the top with it, not as much as the actor who plays Graf, but I didn't think he was scenery chewing as much as the other guy, and I kind of liked it. And I especially like his sidekick, Unstoff, I believe is Unstoff.
He looked really familiar. To me
He was a lot of fun, and he brings an innocence to the duo. You've got the one guy who is this very sneaky, conniving con artist, and then we've got Unstoff that really brings heart to the duo. And I really enjoyed the pairing of the two, and it was like it reminds me of, and I think you made this allusion at one time to another story, and I can't remember what it was, but it reminds me of Spike and the little dog in the old Warner Brothers cartoons with the little, hey Spike, what are you going to do?
Yeah, Spike, what are we going to do, Spike?
I mean,
you want I should go get the cat?
Yeah,
Let's go get the cat.
I mean, it was kind of that type of duo where you've got the kind of the hard guy and then the real soft guy with a little bit of humor and heart to him, and I like that pairing.
Interesting enough, his sidekick is a puppeteer.
I can see that. I can see that from the character, from the expressions and the characters that he did in his own acting and portrayal. I could see him being able to either be a voice actor or a puppeteer.
He was additional puppet or Muppet performer in Muppet Treasure Island, Muppet Christmas Carol, and a creature performer in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Well, I like him even better now. He's just hitting all kinds of soft spots with me.
Rock on.
I absolutely love the Muppets, and I love Hitchhikers.
His
so this
face
is
looks
fantastic.
familiar to me, and I don't.
It looks like that's really the only thing that he would
unless-
not be buried in makeup or something.
Unless I remember him from Alice in Wonderland, the TV movie that was done in '99.
Maybe.
As he played the Dormouse.
Yeah. Which, with no offense to him, his jowls would fit well with the Dormouse.
We're talking the younger guy, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he had jowls, but
He had maybe it was just...
We'll allow it.
Yeah.
Judges?
Going to allow
Okay, the
it.
judges are going to allow.
No, it's just it's unfortunate, really, that the Key to Time, which is such an awesome concept,
Honestly, at
starts
this
on
point,
such a sour note.
I don't have much hope for the rest of Key to Time. I hope the next one redeems the Key to Time for me.
It does get better.
The problem with, I think, the Pirate Planet, though, which is coming up, and we'll get there, and I don't want to go into it too much. The Pirate Planet is a different kind of Doctor Who. It's quite different, even more so than this one. So I think it's a love it or hate it episode. I think you either like the Pirate Planet or you don't. So I'll be interesting to understand. The Tardis cookie jar is going off in the background. Shaun got a cookie and didn't bring any to anybody else. What a Oh, he did. Thank you, Shaun.
Thank you.
Anyway,
Because nothing goes with your beer better than a chocolate chip.
but we'll talk about Pirate Planet more next week.
This is my first Romana 1 episode. Or story.
It's hers first, too.
Well, yeah, it's true. I like the introduction of Romana 1. I like their introduction at first. And then she starts to grow on me. And then my unjustified attachment to K9, and then she insults him. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not good. And then she apologizes and redeems herself. But I like the way that the Doctor sometimes speaks scientifically. She always does. Mm-hmm. And I like that aspect of her character. Because I'm also a Big Bang Theory fan.
Yeah.
A Big Bang Theory fan. Because I've seen like every episode almost twice at least. And as I tweeted, she feels like she could fit on that show just fine. The way she talks. And I like that aspect of her character, and it's something new to a companion that I haven't seen before.
It's something I don't think any of us had seen before, aside from K9 being, quite scientific and quite literal. Romana 1 brings to the part a more of an equal footing with the Doctor because, she obviously brags about her high marks at the academy.
Minus the experience
and,
that the Doctor
exactly,
has.
But that's where that kind of bounces back at her. She makes these comments about her high marks and how well she's kind of bragging on how well she did in the academy. And you get the impression that she's, very green. She's just come out of the academy, even though she's at 100.
Well, I think they
said 190.
They said something
like
about her recent graduation from the academy.
Yeah.
So, but she doesn't have the experience that the Doctor has, and it really comes forth in this episode how much more the Doctor's experience, even though he didn't have quite the marks she did in school. Lend a lot heavier to her knowledge of the technical and the scientific sides of things.
Scraping by with a 51%.
Yes,
And I really
which was a neat interchange between the two on the Terra.
The bickering between the two of them was a lot of fun.
And I like the fact that
It wasn't even bickering; it was more banter.
her name was so long that he wanted to shorten it, but she hates Romana,
Yes.
so he starts calling her that as opposed to Fred.
Yeah, it's either
Which he
that or
gave her-
Fred, and she goes, "Oh, Fred, I like Fred," and he goes, "Okay, come on, Romana."
Which I thought was great. And then the fact that they actually incorporated K9 later in the story, I liked that aspect.
And a dog whistle for K9.
Yeah, that
Yes,
was great.
Yes.
Which, if I'm not mistaken, that's the first appearance of the dog whistle.
I believe so. I don't recall the dog whistle any other time. So.
I like how the Doctor's immediate reaction to her being,
I don't need a companion.
I don't need a companion, I don't need an assistant, I don't need this. And, so we get in there, and here she is. She's already here. She's put a hole in the TARDIS and done all these, horrible things. And the Doctor immediately sets things in motion by turning to K9 going, we don't need her, do we, K9? And K9 backs up. He knows who, he knows who feeds him. That's loyalty for you right there. And I liked that aspect of it, too. It's interesting, and we've kind of skipped over it. You have not seen any Leela
I have
stories at all.
not seen any Leela.
Leela came...
With the exception of Dimensions in Time.
That doesn't count.
Sadly, that was your introduction to Leela.
Wait, yeah, it doesn't count. Leela came between Sarah Jane and Romana.
Mm-hmm.
Actually between Deadly Assassin and Romana.
Yeah.
And Leela...
Sadly, we did a disservice again. The serial just before this one, Invasion of Time.
It's such an important piece, and we keep managing to skip
over it. The Doctor
over
and Romana even referred to President Barusa. So in this episode, Anyway, go
Yeah,
ahead.
it
Go ahead,
was
Shaun. I didn't interrupt. But
Leela's a savage. Leela's all instinct. She's a huntress. She is a very interesting companion,
primitive.
a very primitive person that the Doctor has to explain a lot of things to. Robots and spaceships, and I mean, that's all new to her. And so we get, I don't remember how long Leela was around, a season and a half, maybe?
Must
two?
have been, yeah.
It seemed like longer than a season.
I don't know that it was 2. I can remember her in 6 stories, which would have been about the arc of the entire season. So
maybe
it's
only
probably
a
only
season.
a season. Yeah.
But, so Leela was there for all this time. And then we swing the pendulum the other direction. And instead of the primitive, we get the brain. And because the Doctor's obviously a smart guy. And now Romana's a smart gal. And K9. So we've got
It's kind of refreshing.
It is. It's a little different
It is
feel.
for a while.
Yeah, well,
And then it gets old.
It gets old after a while. But
Oh, there's me bumping the mic again.
are you comfortable yet?
I will be for another 10 minutes, and then I'll move again. And hopefully not bump the mic next time.
What'd you think of the White Guardian?
Colonel Sanders?
Yeah.
I don't know what
Sitting in his wicker chair, drinking a mint julep.
Yeah, I don't.
Looking very Old South.
Old South.
Plantation
very.
owner.
I don't know. I guess I don't understand the idea of the Guardians.
There's not there's not a lot of setup to them. We'll sort
Did
of
we get set up to them earlier?
Well, this is the first time the
This is
Guardians
the first
are
appearance
introduced.
of the Guardian.
And you'll get a little more on them in the Key to Time series, and you'll get even more later on. I think it's in Davison's era where they're reintroduced. So I don't think you're meant to understand much about them at this point in this series, but a lot more will be revealed to us
We'll
by the
explain
end of
later.
this.
We'll explain later.
Yeah, by the end of this, and then you're not going to be left in the dark. By the time this arc ends up, there's a big revelation that really pulls everything together. I don't think the Guardians are ever explained fully and justified for their existence. If
I
you ask
get
me,
the idea
but,
that they're just other Time Lords that are protecting things.
Well, they're not Time
they're
Lords,
not
but
Time
they're
Lords,
they're above
entities.
Time Lords.
Yeah,
even
they're time
What?
entities.
Yeah.
Nothing's above a Time
They're
Lord.
time
yes.
gods.
That is probably the best way to describe it. Which
Wait,
you
isn't
start
that phrase kind of interchangeable?
no
No,
you start getting into
only in Christian Bibles.
Oh, okay.
Well, see, that's just it. You get into these religious discussions, but that's really what we've set up. We've got the White Guardian and the Black Guardian.
Good and evil, the yin and yang.
Good and evil. I mean, we're right there. So essentially, God has sent the Doctor on this mission to go get the key to time because he needs it to.
Or the Architect, if you want to go backwards.
I
we
think
could go
when
that.
the Q and the what are they, the Continuum or what's
The Q Continuum?
The Q Continuum, when they were introduced in Star Trek, The Next Generation, actually gave me a better acceptance of the Guardians in Doctor Who, because the Q Continuum don't set themselves up as these omniscient gods, but they are these very omniscient beings. And that's kind of how I liken the Black and the Dark Guardian, or Black and the White Guardian, too, are just these very omniscient beings that have kind of put themselves in a position of lording over time, or deitying over time. That's how I've always justified it in that sense, and I think Star Trek Next Gen did it better, even though it's a different idea, but you still have this omniscient presence and
Well,
idea.
and it's not just time, although the key to time is the key to it all. But he mentions that the factors, the balance of the universe is out of whack.
Yeah, right.
So it's matter and time and energy, and it's kind of the whole ball of wax. Things are going bad.
Maybe they're physical
Yeah.
manifestations of matter and antimatter. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting a little too philosophical there. I don't
Yin
know.
and Yang?
Yeah. Well, that's the best likening to the Black Guardian, the Dark
Yeah.
Guardian. I keep calling it the Dark Guardian. The Black Guardian and the White Guardian are
So,
the
There's
the
a little
yin
bit
and
of
the
dark
yang.
in the White Guardian and a little bit of good in the Black Guardian.
We'll have to find out.
We'll explain.
Spoilers.
We'll explain later. Anyway, but so without getting too
Metaphysical.
metaphysical there.
I just wasn't impressed by the
This story
story.
was better for me on. This would be my third viewing of this. Saw this long ago. Recently rewatched it on Netflix within the last year, and then of course watching it on Friday night with you guys. I actually enjoyed this more this time around, and this is the last time that I watched these. I watched them all in sequence, and so I wasn't bouncing around like I had before, and so I was able to put the whole season in perspective. Now going back, I'm actually dissecting each individual one now, still in sequence, but able to pick up on things that I didn't pick up last time that I'd seen them. And I actually enjoyed this one more, and I think I enjoyed the more character traits that the Doctor, who's very quirky in this, if you ask me,
yeah,
I would agree.
to dispute Alex's comments on how he's not very doesn't have those quirks that a lot of the Doctors do. I think he's very quirky, very alien. He's very alienated from even Romana, Garen. Is that, what was it?
Yeah.
And Ustad. I mean, everybody in this one. The Doctor seems like his own person, and it's like he's calculating and figuring things out on his own without letting anybody else in on it a lot in this episode to me. And I kind of liked that. I liked that idea of the Doctor sort of steering things. I mean, at the one point, he separates from the others, tells K9 shh, and goes off because he's already devised this plan to dress up as one of the guards and come back in and kind of figure things or work this situation out for his own. And
Maybe
I like
that's why I didn't like this episode, is the Doctor wasn't involved enough.
Well, I think the Doctor's involved more than you think, because he's not until the end. You don't realize that he's got a whole separate. He's working his own con.
Yeah,
and that's what I like about this, is that the Doctor and Romana, you don't think about this the first time you see this episode. You just see the con men working the con on the...
and it focuses a lot of time on them.
on the Tyrant, or whatever you want to call...
Warlord.
Grass. Yeah, the Warlord. Graf. And you don't realize that it's also the Doctor and Romana sort of pulling a con themselves throughout this whole thing, and then the Doctor even taking it further and working a con without Romana. And so I liked that aspect of it and really got more out of it in that perspective this time through as well.
Well, and they kind of take the long way around to get there, because obviously the first attempt is, okay, we know what's in this display case. And so we go in and we're going to unscrew all these bolts, and, he's ratcheting things up, and the guards come in, which I kept expecting to hear cries of, oh, yee, oh, yee, oh.
You did tweet that the guards had borrowed their outfits or inherited their outfits from the Wicked Witch of the West.
Well, the Rebosians looked...
painted them green, or black.
Yeah, the Rebosians looked very Wizard of Oz, whereas Graf's guards looked very Monty Python.
Yes, I thought
they all looked just like the Black Knight.
They looked like the
Just
Black Knight. Absolutely.
But, so, that doesn't work. They get interrupted, and so they've got to hide behind those convenient screens up in the front. And
right
then,
by the door.
It's like, well, how do we get in here? How do we get in? Well, we're going to go out that door. Okay, and then there's a Merca.
We have to talk about, look that up again. What was the name of that creature?
The Jethric?
The Jethric was the
rock, was the precious mineral.
It was a K
with
something,
an S.
or an S. Sexlex, Lock,
Is Shaun speaking Klingon?
Try speaking that 5 times faster.
Anyway, yeah, we get our Merca of this episode, which, quite frankly, it wasn't until this time that it really looked very rubbery. I'm like Keith. The first time we see it, it's the design of it's not too bad.
Shrivenzale.
Yeah, that's it.
Shrivenzale.
It's not moving.
Excited.
It's just kind of sitting there and growling and doing
It looks
so
impressive.
it's not bad. It's not until you realize when it starts. You see the hands or the feet or the talons or whatever it's got. Those look very rubber glovey, and that's a bit bothersome. But
its mouth actually moves as opposed to the Mercas.
The mouth does move. It's very Doctor Who, but it really is the Merca of this set of episodes.
The rodents of unusual size, more impressive.
Look more realistic than this. Yes, I would agree.
And not even realistic, because obviously we're dealing with a dragon type creature, so I don't know how real it could be, but Yeah, I remember that as a kid being underwhelmed
Yeah,
by the monster. And Romana's terrified. She is absolutely, eee! And there's a thing, and
They're trapped under the door.
and he's like, yeah, that's a Shrivenzel. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, there's dozens of them. And, they grow to be this long. Oh, really? Yeah. They're quite treacherous, and I can't take any of it seriously.
Yeah, no,
it's
absolutely.
just
no.
But
partly because it's
that's
Tom
based on the
Baker's delivery.
Yeah.
So it's tongue in cheek, and maybe he's winding her up. Maybe this is a full grown one, and they never get any more dangerous than this.
Right.
But yeah, it just didn't work. But yeah, it's almost like they needed the con in order to be able to get everything working. And I love when they get captured. And they're taken in, and of course Romana's like, shouldn't we be doing something? Should we do something? And he's like, we are doing something, and he's eating grapes. Go on with your story. And he's just completely blown off, because at this point he's already got it figured out.
Yeah, right.
This is the clever doctor. He's got it figured out. He's got the plan already kind of in place. He's already called for help with the dog whistle, and K-9's trundling with that motor just whirling away all the way from the Tardis, and not a single guard heard him coming.
I didn't notice.
I'm
the
sorry,
sound.
Keith. I'm picking on K-9.
I didn't notice it.
You didn't notice it because you're so enamored with the dang thing. I used to love K-9 until you have this unhealthy obsession with it. Now I almost don't like him.
That's part of K-9's charm. Is come on, K-9, and he starts that motor up and starts coming.
I think part of my liking of K-9 is that
Your
it's
unhealthy obsession?
an actual prop, actual robot that did what it was, in theory, did what it was supposed to do.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
I always like
We're doing a disservice to Skip and Leela, because the best K-9 episodes are in the Leela era.
Very much so.
Because he starts to get underused as we get the brains on the Tardis. And
well, and in all technicality, well, maybe I don't want to say that. I don't want to. We've got, because this is Mark.
Mark 3?
No.
Mark 4.
No.
Mark II.
It's Mark 2. This is Mark 2. I'll go ahead and say it. This is not K-9. This is Mark 2.
Well,
You actually, you know what? Kind of think of it. You haven't even been introduced to K-9 yet.
Yeah, you haven't even seen K-9.
You've seen K-9 Mark 2 now, and you've seen K-9 Mark 3. Or 4.
Yeah, 3.
Well, and 4.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You haven't seen one.
see, we could have done a K-9 companion archive.
I still plan to. It's in the works.
Oh, we will. Yeah. Well,
I always
we'll go
liked
back
how-
and watch that horrid episode of The Invisible Enemy.
I'm gonna. Grr. I always liked how whenever they would run off somewhere, they're standing in there, they're all in the shot, and then they leave, and they go behind the wall, or the corridor, or whatever, and everybody takes off, and K-9 goes, and starts rolling, and he's the last one in the progression. But then the very next shot, they've all rearranged themselves, and he rolls out first because obviously he got up to speed while they were in the corridor and passed everybody like NASCAR and got up there and rolled out.
It just takes him a little bit to get going.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Should we talk about Binro?
That was another thing. That was another character this time I appreciated more.
I liked Binro.
Was able to focus on him and his. He's another heart of this story because he is this guy that remembers or things have been passed down to him of old. He has calculated these impressions of the universe that are very scientific, that everybody takes as heresy.
He's the Galileo of the story.
I really like the character, and you feel so bad for him when he ends up having to eat it at the end there. But,
well, even when you realize he's such a great mind, and then he's homeless and living in this hole in the wall.
If you didn't know who Ben Roll was, he was the bum.
Yeah.
That's who we're talking
and
about.
Ustav
The
developed
homeless,
such a nice,
toothless bum.
nice little relationship with him, and it, encourages him and reassures him that he's right, and he's that Ustav been to these other planets, and that, I like that.
I did like that aspect.
They're a little
that was a
designed together.
good improvement to the story when they introduce him.
Yeah. What I don't like is the Seeker. Is that what they call her?
Soothsayer.
Oh,
They call her
the Seeker is what they call her.
Is what they called her. I've always left room for the idea that there are psychics in the Doctor Who universe, but they always seem to be these religious setup as prophets and things like that. They'll visit that later in, which even worse based on the situation. They visit it later in the new series.
Which one's that?
End of time.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, this Seeker reminds me so much of.
Over the top and ridiculous?
No,
Yeah.
well, yes, that too. But there's not much more I can say about her other than she's
Professor Trelawney.
She's sort of a way to she's used in a way of foreshadowing events that are going to happen. I mean, literally foreshadowing things that are going to happen.
When you go to the soothsayer, and she says, "All but one will die."
Yeah.
You know what? That's my indicator not to go.
Don't go.
Why would you?
Especially if you keep bringing in this Seeker to tell you the future. Why don't you heed by it?
And she's been right
Yeah.
before.
That's just it. Yeah,
She was right every single time.
She was able to direct them where. I mean, that's what they were using for. They were using her as a bloodhound to find and locate all of these people they're looking for. But they don't heed that one warning that hey, you go in there, you're not coming back, and that doesn't work for me. But
Yeah.
well, if they had listened to her, the episode would have gone a whole different way. We wouldn't have liked it.
There's a lot of Rebos that just
I know,
doesn't
I might
make
have-
any sense because we've got this Ribos.
Ribos.
It's a Kermit the Frog planet.
Ribos.
Moving right along. We've got this. The whole planet doesn't make sense because they obviously, based on the bum, were technologically advanced at one point in time, which I'll be honest, I didn't pick up on until you pointed it out Friday night when we were watching it.
I
I've
still
kind of
don't
let
believe
that
it.
line slide. But they started off in one direction, that they were aware of space and stars and space
Science.
travel and science in general, and kind of regressed back from that.
Long ago.
You know, as time has gone on. They're a Class 3 planet, which says to me, like a third world country almost.
Mm-hmm.
They're not that
I
important.
think
They're off the grid.
That's the impression that they.
They're the country bumpkins. There's only the one civilization and a couple of townships up in the north,
They love the North on that planet.
and they've
Which
got
apparently nobody's been to because they
Yeah.
didn't know that the Graf Vindicate was not really from the north.
and they've got this. It's all castle. It's all castle-based architecture, and it has that feel to
Very
it.
medieval.
It's very medieval.
I like the idea of visiting a primitive planet. I just don't think it was done well.
Yeah, I mean, it's just. And then we've got, okay, what do we have on this primitive planet that looks like a castle? Well, we've got dragons. Okay, that's kind of the medieval thing. We've got knights, although, wait, no, those were the Grafs, which has space travel.
Mm-hmm.
Did that make sense to anybody?
They came from the ship.
You
yeah.
guys came from the ship, and you're wearing a suit of armor with a bucket on your head?
Except
you
that
don't
they
have
were-
cool ray guns
They
and stuff?
were trying to portray themselves as though they came from the north, as though they came from another part of the planet. That they
He
were-
was in disguise. The moment he decides, okay, get the guards, we're going into the catacombs.
Well, but
Okay.
I think that the plan is if you're going to have to dispatch the guards, perhaps. I mean, they did have those cool ray gun
Sticks.
sticks,
Right.
that shot. I mean, so they did have that ray gun style
But
technology.
it didn't...
But I think the idea is to go in there full blown, and if you have to use the guards, you're still under the ruse that you aren't who you say you are. But I don't know. I'm just trying to justify this too much.
You're trying too hard. It doesn't work for me.
It's not working.
We've got catacombs, and then of course, what's the Rebosians come down, and we're gonna seal off the catacombs with a cannon. I'll seal it up. Really? That's what you got? A cannon? Okay. And what we
It felt like a period piece on the planet.
well, but then the Seeker. This chick's like straight out of some cave outside of town. She doesn't have an apartment there.
No.
So
She probably is the only one really from the north.
they had to go to the north to get her. I don't know. It was like Clan of the Cave Bear. It just didn't make any sense for me. So, yeah, the Key to Time series, I agree with you. It's kind of up and down. It gets better from here.
I certainly hope so.
I think Rebos is the worst episode of the bunch, in my opinion.
My least favorite is your favorite, so
Which one?
Stone's Blood.
But again, it's been
One
so
of your
long since I've seen it. And you know what? You know why I like Stones of Blood so much, which we'll talk about more when it comes up. Canine. It's got a lot. It's got a lot of canine.
In fact,
in it,
that'll
so
probably be
it'll be Keith's favorite.
It does have a lot of canine. Yeah. sure does.
So, oh well.
Not much more I could say about Rebus.
Yeah.
Rebus. It's
It
a
is.
fine episode. I don't hate it. I don't love it. but I
Who
don't
wrote
hate
it? Was it Bob?
It was Bob Holmes. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's
Robert Holmes.
That's another strange thing is that
I love how we're on a first name basis with a guy who's passed away.
Bob.
That's Bob. Yeah, it's Bob.
Oh,
Bob and I go way back.
Good old Bobby.
Really, I was a pallbearer at his funeral.
I remember Bob. Bob could turn a phrase. He danced well too. He did. He'd get out there and cut a rug.
Well,
I can't back that up.
I wasn't sure where you were going to go with it, but
We're gonna allow it.
we'll allow
well, I
it.
think we should address the next two pieces of feedback that we've been holding on to because they are in part
think-
reviews of Let's Kill Hitler.
Spoilers.
The first one we will do
Hang
is
on. Spoilers. I'll say it again. If you haven't seen it yet, stop the recording.
What are you doing? Go watch it.
Well, it may not be available in their area
If it's
yet.
Reese, he's in
Reese is in Australia.
Australia.
It
He
doesn't
won't
air
get
till
it
next week, right?
Yeah,
When
by
does it
Thursday, I think.
Oh.
So, if
Why,
you,
why are you listening to our podcast?
I don't think he does. I think he waits.
I think so too.
I hope so.
I don't know. Reese,
But-
let us know. Do you wait?
Yeah. do you listen to the whole thing all at once, or do you actually heed us and stop and then wait until you've seen it and then cue it back up? Anyway, at this point, if you have not seen the premiere of season 6.5 or 2 or whatever we're calling
Well,
it,
this is 6.2. I don't know
6.2.
where everybody got that. They're doing 6.1 and 6.2 now. To me, it's 6 and 6.5, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not the one that came with.
To me, it's
I wasn't the
se-
keeper of the map.
second half of Series 6.
Yeah, that's,
well,
what,
if you
that's
haven't-
what I say. Is
Episode
this is
8.
the second half of series.
if you haven't
6.
seen episode 8, Let's Kill Hitler, stop now because we're going to talk about it. As Traveling the Vortex policy is, once it's aired in our area, we review it.
That's
so
correct.
It's fair game. So if you haven't seen it, turn away and shield your eyes and your ears.
That is your final warning.
Okay, now you can proceed.
All right, first one's from Chrissy.
Hi, Chrissy.
I'm going to do this one first, even though we got it out of order because she mentioned
She does kind of, yeah. She comes out of what we're talking about.
Let's Kill Hitler stuff. Hi, Vortex boys. Shaun, this is me typing my appreciation that you are big enough. You are a big enough person to admit that you were wrong when you were so vehemently opposed to Peter Davidson just because he replaced Tom Baker as a doctor. Let's hope some of the David Tennant fans who are anti-Matt Smith will follow your example. Who would be
Hear,
against,
hear.
Who would be against Matt Smith? Really?
There's apparently a slew of them out there.
There's a slew of them out there.
I hate to disillusion
Sean
you,
got
but
into a flame war with one of them on Twitter. Sorry.
An 8-year-old pissed me off.
Oh, she was 12.
I have just a few trivia tidbits and some comments about Let's Kill Hitler. For Time Crash, it was actually David Tennant's idea to have Peter Davidson in Time Crash. I think the idea was to have a classic Doctor in the episode, but the powers that be hadn't yet decided who to get, so Tennant suggested Davidson, and thankfully producers took his suggestion seriously. I could seriously gush about Time Crash for pages and pages of feedback, but I assume you'll eventually want to review Let's Go Hitler, so I will limit myself to saying, couldn't we have done this story for Friday Night Who instead of the two doctors?
It would have been a short Friday night.
Would have been
It would've been
very
very
short
short.
Friday Night Who.
Maybe I'd have gotten to bed on time.
And we would have been enthralled by the story so much we wouldn't have tweeted.
Yeah.
We could have watched it 2 or 3 times.
Are you kidding? We could have watched it 7 or 8 times.
Now just tweet every other word. Now just the people in the front.
4 Dimensions in Time, there is either a Doctor Who novel or comic that actually references this story and universe.
What?
I think I've heard that, but listen, keep going.
It turns out to be just a bad dream of the Doctor, maybe mainline EastEnders one night, and it disagreed with his subconsciousness. In any case, I think we can safely dismiss this train wreck from Doctor Who canon, other than it is nice to see all the Doctors and companions together, but that's about it.
The Doctor sat down, caught a whole marathon of EastEnders, had a bad jar of Marmite, went to sleep, and this was the result.
Although, you could still argue that this even if it is referenced in novel or comic, it's still not canon because those things aren't canon either.
Depends on your
Definition of canon, yes.
No, it depends on your view of canonicity.
View of canon, yes. I'm not going to try canonicity because...
Because by that same token, there are people that don't consider the Big Finish audio as canon because it's not a film televised adventure. It's not aired.
But I think...
But Dimensions in Time is. So it's like... it's really difficult. And, I mean, that's one of the fun things about being... what's the line from Big Trouble? He says, Chinese mysticism is like your salad bar. We take what we want and leave the rest. That's really the best you can do with it. Because you can't... Especially with Doctor Who, with something that's been on this long, you cannot sit down and say, only televised adventures are canon. Because then you have to count Dimensions in Time, and I don't think a lot of people want to. But then if you say, well, that was a Children Need special, so it doesn't count, well, okay, now you've invalidated Time Crash, which a lot of people don't want to. I mean, you have to. I have to count Time Crash as
I think
part of
almost... I think it works like the Children in Need specials or the Red Nose Day specials, for the most part, work for new series Who, that you can count them in canon, but not classic Who, if you want to use those phrases.
See, but that's just it. Now we're getting nitpicky about what counts and what doesn't, and that's why I think you have to. I think you have to be a little nitpicky when it comes to what you count in your canonicity.
Because quite frankly, if you count Red Day No specials, you have to
Curse
count
of the Fatal Death.
Curse of Fatal Death.
Curse of Fatal Death.
But that wouldn't count as new Who.
Why not? It's got Dr. Nine in it.
But depending on your definition of new Who, then I guess.
Well, and
you
there are
could go
some
with
people
the
that
logo.
There are some people that don't want to count Doctor Who the movie.
Well,
they're still adamantly opposed to the idea that there was a movie that starred Sylvester McCoy regenerating into Paul McGann, and they say no, it's not canon.
How is that? I don't understand how that's not.
Well, that's
canon.
why it was inserted into much of the new series when they would show flashbacks and they included Paul McGann's doctor. So, I'm sorry, that counts. Now.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That officially counts now.
And I personally still would include a lot of the Big Finish stuff too.
I think we've dwelled enough on what canon
I'm sorry.
is and what's canon.
We're running off tonight. We've talked about canon too.
We have.
And canonical and canonicity.
So now that Keith's been introduced to the Ronnie, you should schedule a review of Mark of the Ronnie at some point.
It's coming. We're going to do a Ronnie.
I think he needs
archive.
a decent Colin Baker story, and Mark of the Ronnie is probably the best one. I think so, anyway.
Between the
Chrissy says that, not Keith.
Between the two
of the Ronnie episodes, yeah, that's the better of the two. I don't know that it's. I wouldn't consider it one of Colin Baker's best.
Okay.
We'll talk about that sometime.
On to...
That's Glenn at Traveling the Vortex. Why am I... Chrissy, you know who he is. Just go get him.
On to Let's Kill Hitler. I really love this episode. It filled in so many gaps with River Song's backstory, and now we can move on to Other Questions Series 6.1 presented. There are so many good parts of the story that it's hard to pick a favorite. I'm glad that we're finally getting some resolution to everything that's going on with this season. Well, I'm glad we have new Doctor Who to discuss. I'm eagerly awaiting your thoughts on Let's Kill Hitler. Chrissy, P.S. In all honesty, I would be right there along with my husband making sure the electronics were all hooked up right as we were moving into a new place. Who needs furniture? We can sit on the floor. So if there are any single guys out there listening to this, PPS. And since you were all wondering, I'm 26. PPPS. I reread my last two postscripts, and that sounded kind of bad. I swear, I'm not trying to use your podcast to get a date. Well, Chrissy, if Mark and Alex can use our podcast to interchange about DVDs, I certainly welcome.
And if you'd like Traveling the Vortex to set you up on your next date, make sure you send us feedback. It's on our website.
Our last bit of feedback is also Let's Kill Hitler related.
And it's from Holly Mac, and my mouse clicked the wrong thing, so I'm trying to go back to my email.
In the meantime, all you single guys out there that happen to be listening, Christy's apparently available.
And it's 26.
She's 26 years old, a Doctor Who fan,
so
specifically
right.
of Peter Davison.
She's around my age.
She's around your age. We knew that. We suspected
She's
that.
around your age.
She's younger than me.
Yeah, she's a couple years younger than you.
No, only one.
Aren't you 28?
I just turned 27.
Oh, well then yeah, she's right around your age.
She is Sarah's age. Sarah,
Well, you're off the market now, so it doesn't.
Yeah,
It would never work out.
I'm saying, but
It wouldn't work out because you're not a Peter Davison fan yet. Although you did defend him. So
I did defend him.
I'll give you that. Second piece of Let's
Chrissy,
Kill Hitler feedback.
we'll let you know if Sarah,
If Sarah ever dumps
Sarah
me.
and Keith ever break up.
No, I'm not going to go there either. Let's Kill Hitler feedback from Holly Mack, Holly, Wisconsin. She writes, "Hey guys, loved last week's podcast. Wanted to share some of my thoughts on this week's episode. Rory and Amy making a crop circle with their car to get the Doctor's attention was neat. Interesting flashbacks with Amy, Rory, and Mel's. Shooting the Tardis will not earn you any brownie points with the Doctor. Some of the predictions about Melody River killing a good man, a.k.a. the Doctor, seem correct, as of right now. The Doctor looks bow tie in a top hat and tails.
He does.
Plus, I love the sonic cane. Did not see it coming with River using all of her regenerations to save the Doctor. I'm just wondering if the other shoe is finally dropped, or if Moffat's going to pull the rug out from under us again at the last episode of Series 6, leading with us shaking our fists, yelling, "Moffat!" and a few other choice words at our TV screens.
Great con reference, by the way.
Looking forward to your thoughts on this episode. Holly from Wisconsin.
Great Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
Yeah,
Mad bonus points there. And she's going, what con?
Moffat.
Well, shall we dive into Let's Kill Hitler?
Nah, I think Holly pretty much summed it up for us.
Yeah, that was good. All
That's
right,
going to
we'll
do
see
it
you
for
next
us
week.
this week.
I took notes this week because I've watched this episode twice, and there was a lot I want to touch on.
Now, you've seen it twice. I've seen it once. You've seen
I've
it?
seen it once.
Okay, so we're behind.
Which Sarah and I watched it last night, shortly after it aired on BBC America, so we could skip the commercials. And then we watched it again today with the group.
Yes. Which was my first airing of it.
Yes. Which Holly touched on the crop circles and the flashback, so I'm going to skip over that and touch on some of the big things about this episode. One, which I didn't catch until you mentioned it, Shaun.
Oh, yeah, because I thought it was great.
The state of Temple Grace in the TARDIS.
Yeah.
That's all blown out of the water now.
We can throw that
Obviously,
away.
that's all just a clever lie.
Yep.
Which I find interesting that there's more and more classic Who stuff that we're just throwing in the trash.
It's one of those things that when they established it in Hand of Fear, the Doctor says you can't do that. The weapon won't work in here. We're in the Temple Grace because we don't exist. We're outside of the time stream. And Eldrad buys it, and I bought it because the Doctor said it. It wasn't until much, much, much later that I've come to agree with the opinion that the Doctor lies. It's rule one. It's rule
Well,
one.
even in Earthshock, the Doctor's genuinely afraid of the Cybermen who are standing there with guns on them, and
Which never made any sense
right,
because
exactly.
there's a state of Temple Grace.
It doesn't, yeah.
And
But
then later-
Earthshock is Peter Davidson.
But
which
then
has
later,
that humanity and the fear.
But
to
no.
it.
But this doesn't make any difference. Even if you have humanity and fear, if you know your TARDIS well enough that you're in a state of temporal
I guess
grace,
that's true.
he should have been calculating a different way to. I mean,
In
he
the
devise a way.
he does,
to kill them.
in the Human Nature Family of Blood two-parter, we open with them being the Doctor and Martha being chased back into the TARDIS with laser blasts flying through the doorway. Now, okay, they're generating from outside. You could people that would argue that, but I don't know. In my mind, state of temporal grace means period. You're safe.
I mean,
That kind of falls into that's why I can extend the force field beyond the TARDIS and hold Amy outside that's why we can open the doors in space.
Right.
That
Yeah.
field of temporal grace is part of that.
right.
No, it was all just a clever.
It's a force field. That's all it is.
Yeah,
it's a force field.
it's all just it's a clever name for a force field.
Yes.
No, it doesn't even exist for that. It's just it
It
was a ruse for Eldrad, and I loved that. I
but
thought that was
maybe
cool.
he
This is-
hadn't activated it yet.
And this is only this isn't only the first time or the second time that this has been done, because what happened is, do you remember back in Pyramids of Mars when he tells Sutekh that only he can pilot the TARDIS because of isometric controls, and then Matt Smith turns around and doesn't believe
Kasdan,
Kasdan,
Tarzak.
yeah, whoever it was in
Kazrak.
the Christmas Carol, because he says isometric controls. No, that's a lie, because he is alluding to the fact that he lied to Sutek. They never said that. They never said that he was lying, but that sets up the fact that isometric controls was something that isomorphic. Yeah, controls is the only way that he can fly the TARDIS. They threw that out the window as well. So I mean,
they threw that
it's
out
not the first time
early
that
on
this
when
has
they
happened.
showed that
River could
River
pilot
could
the TARDIS.
pilot
yes.
the TARDIS.
Well, didn't somebody else
Although
have a?
she's technically a time lady, and we know that now.
Yeah.
Didn't somebody else have a weapon that was isomorphic? Was it the Master's laser?
It was the Master's laser
In,
His
screwdriver.
laser
This
screwdriver,
laser screwdriver was
that's right,
isomorphic.
was isomorphic.
So-
That's right.
Some things are right. Obviously, isomorphic actually exists because
Right.
of the laser screwdriver
Right, that's
and
true.
Kazran Sardak's.
which the Doctor couldn't access.
Yeah.
So maybe he lied about it, but then found out. Oh,
It really does work. Oh, there really is a...
I like that too.
Another thing, a lot of this is dealing with River and Melody. Are my notes
Or Mel's.
or Mel's?
Oh, we were going to talk about. We were going to look that up.
We were gonna look this up. I think Mel says, "Last time I did this, I ended up a toddler." Shaun thinks she references when she's regenerating.
When she starts regenerating. I thought she said last time I did this was in an alleyway in New York.
That's what she says.
I'm
Like,
pretty
last-
sure she said, "Last time I did this, I ended up a toddler."
No,
No.
she says I was in an alleyway in New York, and then she says something right after that, but I don't remember exactly what it was. But no. Yeah, she says...
Okay.
And then she's referencing to the end of...
Impossible Answer.
Day of the
Moon.
Day of the Moon.
So then,
So
do
she's
you accept
only
the fact that the
regenerated...
child
She's
is
only regenerated twice
Right.
from
In
that
theory.
expression. No.
Well, yeah, I guess it's
From
true.
that statement, she's
Yeah.
only regenerated twice, and she when she regenerated,
This
she
being the
regenerated
second one.
to a young black girl, who then in turn basically was raised by him and Rory, which I thought was very clever.
Oh, yeah, brilliant!
Hey, Mom and Dad, you actually did raise me. Well, okay.
So then, do you accept the fact that the girl is River, is Melody, that we saw regenerating
In the alley in New York,
in the alley?
based on the statement
Based
she
on the
makes,
statement she
absolutely.
makes, yes.
That was
So
Moffat
can we
telling
open
you.
your envelope? That
No.
wasn't at the reveal.
No, because his envelope includes who's in the.
I don't believe that it was River in the astronaut suit.
And that's my second note. Melody kills the Doctor in Utah, or are they referencing here? At first,
And
it makes it
now
seem
let me
like they're
ask you
referencing
about that,
here.
because that's a question I have. Is the crew of the
Treselect.
yes, they do say that it happens in Utah, right?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, I thought that I had caught that, but I wasn't
They later
sure.
say, at first they say she kills the Doctor, and you're led to believe this is when she kills the Doctor.
Right.
But then later,
They say, well, that was actually in Utah
But-
in 1960.
but then
they
if-
say the Doctor dies in
if-
Utah. He must
2000.
always die in Utah.
yeah,
Yeah.
then if Melody kills the Doctor, and it's not this time, it has to be in Utah because that is when he dies. It's a time-locked event. Somebody mentions, you can change time. No, this is time-locked. He will always die there. So how can it be...
Fixed point. not
It was a
timeline.
fixed point. Whatever.
Well, just to be
Isn't the
to be
same
accurate.
idea?
No, I totally,
well,
I totally agree with what you're saying there, Keith, because that's where I was unclear. Is I
So
couldn't
how
remember if I remembered them saying that he died in Utah, and they do. They specifically say that. So because they are quite confused at the fact that he's dying now too.
Yeah.
In fact, they set up that whole thing because they go back to kill Hitler before he's supposed to die and realize that they're 2 years too early. And,
Yeah.
or 4 years too early.
Oh, 1938.
Yeah, so it would have been 4 years too early because he was 42 when he died, or was it 42?
no, it was 45 or 46, wasn't it?
Was it? Well, anyway, they were too
Well,
early.
the war was still
He
going
says they're
on.
too early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
We gotta go later in his time stream.
yeah, decide that they have to go later in the time stream. So I don't know. I mean, it seems strange that they would also try to arrest her
Before
now,
it happened.
before it actually happens, because they make a point of saying that they go just ahead of when they're supposed to die and make it hell on them. So they
Yeah.
take them out of the time stream and they
They make them pay for their
make
crimes.
them pay for their crimes.
Maybe they thought that this Melody, or this version of Melody or River, was the future version. That's the only justification I can find for their... Or we cannot trust anything that the crew
don't know, that is
of
a
the
bit
Treselect
confusing.
said.
Well, I think what's confusing is that Hitler, because Hitler was the criminal, And so they were going to go get him within his time stream. Oh, we can't. We're too early. We have to go back a couple
So
of
they're
years.
about to abort.
But, oh,
no, they
wait,
have to go
here's
forward a couple years.
here's this person who also is a war
Well, the
criminal,
one
kills
guy
the
does
doctor.
say,
Did you
if
guys
we
think
get
at first
her,
it
that
was
would
the-
be a huge
I thought for
gift.
sure it
I
was the
thought
doctor
they were
were
talking
after.
about the doctor at first, too. Before they said her.
Oh.
Well, the way it comes up, he's like, "Oh, we've got a positive ID on the blue box. We want to
Time
talk war
Lord.
criminals."
Time
And it
Lord,
was like,
Tardis
"Oh,
stole
No.
they're after the
okay.
doctor." And then all of a sudden, immediately after that, it's
See,
it's
I didn't.
River.
I
was
didn't
like,
fall.
oh.
I didn't fall for that because I remember them saying that, and my first thought was they're talking about River, but the writer here, Steve Moffat, is trying to set you up to make you think it's. I think
See,
I'd already
that-
rationalized
See,
that.
I totally
That was
bought
before
on
they
that
had
one, but-
revealed the Mel's is Melody.
Well, yeah, it definitely was.
So.
But I thought. But I'm also thinking River's in prison later. She's clearly done something to put her in prison, and she's killed somebody. So I
very good
I
man.
just immediately thought, well, these guys are time cops essentially, or time justice system.
Yeah.
And they're that's I think I rationalized that sooner. It didn't take me aback by, oh my gosh, are they talking about the
See,
doctor?
this is what this is the
But I
part
think
that
that was the
doesn't
intention
jive.
there.
Is we can't kill Hitler now because we're too early in his time stream. We can't justify it, so we
'Cause
have
it
to
would
change
change.
that. But the minute they decide to go after River,
That's what I'm
why
saying.
are they even bothered with the doctor's date of death?
That's what I'm saying.
You're
That-
right. It shouldn't matter.
it
We
sh-
should go to the end of
Right,
River's
we need to go
time
to
stream.
Utah where
Well,
The
no,
doctor's
no.
we need to go to right before River Song would die.
But
Which
at that
is-
point,
as-
she had
as-
been in
as far-
prison for so long
No,
that
no,
she
no,
would
no,
have
As
no,
far-
hated
no,
her.
no, no,
no, no.
That's exactly it. Because if we're going to go further in Hitler's time and catch him and put him in hell right before he actually is killed, or right
Oh, I
before
see
he
what you're
dies,
saying.
Yeah, that's the
the
idea.
same rule should apply for
Yeah,
River.
I
That
see
we
what
need to
you're
go to
saying.
the end of her time
I see
stream,
what you're saying.
which, as far as
so
we,
that
the
she
audience
doesn't actually
know,
die, she suffers hell
exactly
before she dies. Yeah,
as far as we, the audience, know, would be Silence in the Library.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
But they didn't. They kind of blew that out the window and said, "No, let's get her now."
Yeah, that doesn't
So-
work very well. You're
Well,
right. I
well,
hadn't
maybe
thought
the
of that.
fact that it's a Time Lord. She's part Time Lord.
She's all Time Lord, Keith.
I say she's part.
She is all Time
She's
Lord.
human
She
plus
in all the right
was,
parts too.
The Vortex made her.
a Time Lord.
No, she's 100% Time Lord. She's 100% Time Lord. She was conceived by humans, but the Time Vortex made her Time Lord.
Okay. Well, regardless, she's Time
Sorry,
Lord.
that's the way I look at
So
that.
you don't look at her as half human,
No, not at all.
because you know the doctor is.
No, not at all.
Somebody out there nails on a chalkboard. No!
Speaking of that, so do you think that's what the Doctor means when he says Melody is a child of the TARDIS?
That's exactly what he means.
Yeah.
The next note I had was the revelation about the silence. The fact that
It's not a species. It's
it's not a species.
organization or a religion.
A religion. We
Which-
got this ominous feeling all through season 5. Silence will fall. Silence will fall. Season 6 starts. There's a silence. Oh, look, it's taken care of in 2 episodes. Oh, wait, no.
We knew all along it wasn't going to be taken.
Well,
We've been
yeah.
saying that the silence.
Well,
was
yes,
gonna
but
return.
we thought I still thought the silence was a species.
I agree with that. I thought the Silence were.
I never thought of it as a religious organization, and they call
remember
it
how
the
I
movement
said that was
of the
really
silence.
very silly for the silence to be a species, and that I felt like that it was something that Moffat had concocted because he had an idea of the silence will fall, and then I said it was something that he came up with, and it's too simple for it to be a species. It has to be something else.
Yeah, I remember that.
He justified me by doing that.
Oh, yeah,
you
by
were
that
totally-
statement.
you were totally
Yeah,
right.
well, I'm not saying it was right, but what I'm saying is it worked. It worked for me. It was one of those. It was one of those loose things that I still get the impression that Moffat placed this idea of the silence, but then when it manifested as to what it was in the first series, that's why I wasn't satisfied with it. And I said I have to see more of this because I felt what he did by saying that, by that line describing what the silence story was, totally justified it for me. And even though I still think it was an idea planet, he may not have had it completely formulated, he stuck with what his preconceived ideas of what the silence would be, stuck with that and gave us that perfect answer for what the silence is. And so I really absolutely love the setup and the delivery.
Well, so
of
far
that.
it's all been red herrings because all
Yes.
through season 5 with Silence Will Fall, we get to Pandorica Big Bang, and we're led to believe that that means the end of everything.
Right.
That's
Yeah.
the silence
It's the
that will
silence.
fall on everything. Then season 6 starts, and no, the Silents are a species. Oh! So the Silents will fall.
Yep.
And
I
they're
had a
done
problem
in
with
2 episodes.
that, but
And
that's- yeah.
but it turns out, no, that isn't even it.
Yeah.
So there's still yet more to be
It's
revealed.
the movement
right.
of the silence in the Academy of the Question.
Yes,
That's
and I
what they
love
called it.
that. I love that idea.
42.
I was going to bring that up.
I thought the same thing. 42?
Do you think Stephen Moffat kind of wrote that, remembering that Douglas Adams wrote for Doctor Who?
Oh, I
That
don't
kind
know.
of,
Maybe. I
he's
mean,
kind of
I think
nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Funny
Hey,
enough.
Hitchhiker's Guide.
funny enough, Douglas Adams didn't have as much to do with Doctor Who as a lot of people maybe build up and remember. I mean, he was a script editor
but
for
he
a
was only-
season.
yeah, it was only one
and
season.
he wrote, 2 episodes, and one never aired. So,
Well, no, he wrote Ribos. Or not
no,
Ribos.
he wrote Pirate Planet.
He wrote Pirate Planet. He wrote
And
Shada. And City of Death.
Oh, he did write City of Death. I forgot. 2 that aired and 1 that didn't. That's right. I forgot about City.
There's 3. Credit where
I
credit
forgot
is due.
about City of Death. Yes, and which is one of my favorites. But anyway,
So, what do you guys think the question is?
Well, that's the other
Oh,
thing.
I
They
don't
kept
know.
talking about when they're getting the records from the robot Amy, and she's going on about the silence will fall when the question is asked. So what does he say? What's the question? Oh my God! Don't start everything in motion early, because
yeah, but at that point he thought he was dying. So
well,
Yeah.
what about the rest of us? Because I'm thinking to myself, what's the question? What's the ultimate answer? Oh my God, it's starting! And here's earthquakes and cats and dogs living together and flood and mass hysteria. It just... What is the question? What could be the question?
I love it. I think he's with those small points, he has set up a nice little balance for this next half of the season that we're going to get another point A to point B while wrapping up everything back from the first part of the
Yeah,
season.
agreed.
I agree.
I this episode, with the exception of the little nitpicky things that we've hit on that are kind of big, but talking about why are they pursuing River at this time, other than maybe they're getting
Overzealous?
greedy, overzealous because she obviously is put forth as kind of the ultimate criminal. I mean, when you're going to pass over Hitler to go take out River Song, but besides that, some of the things that were dropped in here, the clues that were dropped, and the revelations that we got, even Melody being Mel's, growing up with Amy and Rory, and then changing into River, and then in turn at the very end.
She gives
Redeeming
away her
herself
regenerations.
again for the Doctor by giving away all of her subsequent regenerations to bring him back or to keep him from dying. I loved that. I thought that was great. It was a good way to
And it's so-
exercise the fact that River is now vulnerable. River is now not going to regenerate, and that makes total sense for everything we've seen of River before. That she was vulnerable. She could die. She was not going to. There should not have been any time where she didn't just blow things off and go, well, no big deal. If you shoot me, I'm going to regenerate, because she doesn't have that in her character.
Yeah.
And so she doesn't have it anymore, and that works. It's
Now-
so
Which-
retcons everything.
When I first found out that River was Time Lord or Time Lady, that was my first thought was, well, why didn't she regenerate in Silence in the Library?
Now we know.
And now we know. It's such
it totally
brilliant
answered that.
writing that, when I
Now,
saw that
It
happening,
fixes little things.
it fixes so many things.
Here's a question.
And
Did her giving up her regenerations
give him more?
give him more?
Oh, that might work.
Has Moffat
That might-
just removed the regeneration cap?
But he'll still die in
not
Utah.
necessarily.
But he still dies in Utah.
Well, wait a
So it
minute,
doesn't matter,
wait a
so you
minute.
won't
I don't-
regenerate.
wait, I don't think he's dying in Utah. I'm sorry, I'm sticking to my guns.
I don't think he dies in Utah.
Now-
either,
But you've just hit on something very, very, very clever, Shaun, because not what he did was not totally give a whole slew of cycles of regenerations, but he at least got the remaining 9 that River gave up.
theoretically.
Theoretically,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, no, it'd be
they
more
could work this out.
It'd be
to work.
10.
No,
Well,
She
she's
re-
on-
you get 11 no, you get 12 regenerations.
12 13 lives.
13 lives.
She was the
Assuming
girl.
that her busting out of
Mel's
the astronaut
and River.
suit
Yeah, you're right. It's
isn't
it's
a regeneration.
11.
That's how I can
No,
justify
I think
her
she,
busting out of the astronaut
she
suit.
went from Melody Baby to little girl in the astronaut suit.
But I don't think that's her.
Then she regenerates. Well, no, she was in the suit at one time. Not necessarily the girl that
Right.
walks out of the depths and shoots the Doctor. But she obviously was in the suit at one time because River talks about the girl forcing herself out.
But that's the problem that I have with that.
And the
River's
suit-
the one saying, whoever this
Yeah.
was must have been very strong. Well, you were in the suit. Why don't you remember?
Yes.
But Mel,
That's the problem I have with that.
your Mel brought up a good point that what if by giving away her regenerations, she forgot her past selves?
No.
Have we ever seen someone give up their regenerations before?
No. Not that
So we don't know what happens in that.
But
Yeah,
why does River
but
know that she's their child then?
She does still at the end retain memories.
Yeah.
That
Maybe some of them are lost. Maybe early regeneration memories
that's
are
something
lost.
that's something I think it's futile for us to sit and speculate since that will probably be answered in
Yeah.
5 episodes. So I don't think
I'm
that's necessary
holding out
speculate
hope
for
that we'll get more of a reveal on that in the finale.
Yeah.
We may not. It may be done. It may be Stephen Moffat saying, "Yeah, of course she's the girl in the astronaut suit. You idiots! Didn't you catch on?"
Because I think I read somewhere that Alex Kingston is not back again until the last 2 episodes of the season.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
Well, the next episode was one that was going to air the first half of the season.
right.
So
Exactly. Would have been in place of Curse of the Black Spot. I still liked the episode.
you're the one defending it.
Grr.
The fact that the TARDIS showed Melody how to fly it, that we finally get to see who taught River how to fly the TARDIS
Yeah, it
was
wasn't
fantastic.
the Doctor.
It wasn't,
the Doctor,
just
and I
like
love
she
that.
said.
Yeah, wasn't you.
Which was so great. And
A
then,
lot of things in this added to the backstory of River without
yeah.
having to go into long, detailed explanation.
Yeah.
And I like that.
It's in a way it felt like a Lost thing where you connect the dots in your mind. This was this. Okay, that makes sense.
And I haven't read a lot of reviews, but I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people that felt like those were rushed and thrown away. But I think Moffat did it just right in order to fill that backstory with and still have a good subsequent story here.
And I think what he did most right was assume his audience is intelligent.
Or at least capable of following along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And making those connections.
Yes.
I mean, so many shows assume their audience is stupid and lay it all out on the table for you. And that was one of the things I loved
They
about
try to
Lost.
oversimplify it.
Yeah.
Was that they didn't oversimplify it. You have to make the connections in your mind,
Yeah,
or you're
absolutely.
lost in this show.
Although they went so far as to not make enough connections, even for those of us that were following along and drawing maps and making charts and things like
I
that.
didn't have
Lost
problems making the
still
connections.
Lost still had some disjointed connections.
You're just so.
I'm just such a fan.
You're a fan.
And then my
It's like
last,
your unhealthy obsession with
Canine.
K9.
Lost had problems.
I have a Lost tattoo. Okay, I have to defend it.
Lost had problems.
Lots of problems.
The last note I made on this episode was the fact that I shouldn't be surprised by this, but the Doctor gives River her journal. I
was
thought
so
that was
glad
a
we saw
nice
that.
touch.
It was a neat touch.
That was such a nice touch. That's all the notes I had.
I
We
can't
touched on
say
everything.
much bad about this.
No, it was great.
I didn't even think this through much until you brought it forth, and that's really still only my distaste with the episode is that doesn't work out. Where you were talking about the crew and how
Well, and
they
you know
should have gone to her
that's
and-
that's a nitpicky
It
thing.
really is
because
nitpicky,
I loved the concept. I love the fact that we've got
It's
tiny,
so inner space.
tiny people in a giant robot. Well,
It was a little
full-size
weird,
robot.
but it was
It
pretty
was
cool,
weird,
yeah.
but it's such a Doctor Who thing.
Yeah.
If
Oh,
you'd have tried to
absolutely.
pull that off in any other science fiction series ever, it wouldn't work.
I'm not even sure it would have worked in early Who. It
Oh,
maybe
no.
would have worked later on when
well,
we got
visually they couldn't have pulled it off either.
Oh, I think easily. That's a real easy one to pull off. In fact, for a simple budget, you just build an interior set and you have a exterior robot. A
well,
person that's playing a
you're talking
robot.
about the cool.
Yeah,
changes.
Yeah, that wouldn't have worked,
That would have
obviously,
been
but-
well. I mean, but that would have been the same. You could have used the same generic Doctor Who effects.
Yeah, they would have
that
had
we
a-
back then. Yeah,
and then it would have been another
they would
actor.
have washed out, and then it would have been a different actor. Absolutely, yeah. I think this concept would have worked in early Who. Again, not maybe Hartnell Troughton era, but by the time we got to some of the more fanciful special effects in later Pertwee and on, I think it would. Yeah, I think they would have.
Well, and first of
worked
all,
as
just
a
the
story.
idea that miniaturization is not unknown and fairly commonplace, and okay,
It happens in Carnival of Monsters for crying out loud.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it did have that feel to it. And how awesome was Rory in this episode? Well, there's obviously miniaturization Ray. Well, we're smaller, and there was a Ray. Miniaturization Ray.
I had
He had
one
so many
issue
great
with him
moments
because
with
he
him.
felt like he had backpedaled when the guard comes out to him, and I think it was the guard whose motorcycle they stole. Anyway, he comes up to him, and he's like,
Trying to make an excuse.
This is
yes,
all,
making
this is
an
all
excuse,
easily
and
explainable, and
but then he punches him, and I went, "Oh, that's the Rory that we've learned to
Yes.
know now." It was like he was just doing it to disjoint the guy, and then popped him. and
He
it's like,
punches
all right.
Hitler.
yeah,
Yeah, that
And then
was
puts
cool
him in the
too.
cupboard.
That was cool. Well, that was the cool thing about that was the fact that it was just it was a gut decision on Rory's part, and that's the
Oh.
first time that you really see that. Okay, I'm taking charge here. Decision.
Well, we watched A Good Man Goes to War again before we went over to watch shows with the group. And I see so much of that same Rory that was so strong in A Good Man Goes to War come through
It
in
really-
this episode.
He's got to stay that way though. For
Oh,
to
absolutely.
Make it, I mean,
and unfortunately, I'm afraid that he's not in the next episode
because of
because
its placement.
it
in the
was
series.
where it was going to be placed. And I'm afraid this is one of the ones he's going to die again.
But he hasn't for a long time, so
Yeah,
it
I
might
know,
not
but
be so
still.
bad.
Didn't they make reference in the coming up that I died again? So didn't they say something about that?
I missed that.
I thought I caught that.
I didn't see the coming up. I don't know why I didn't wait around. Oh no, I did. It was the Night Terrors one.
Night
Yeah,
Terrors.
I did watch
the,
that.
the dolls.
Yep.
Monsters are real. Thanks. Now, like I said, that's a nitpicky thing. I loved the concept of the little people and the robot. I loved all of the River Song backstory. Obviously, was great. Let's talk about Hitler. I mean, let's kill Hitler.
He's barely in it.
He's barely and the whole. Well, you've got a time machine. I don't know. Let's kill Hitler. And all of a sudden, it was like, well, the title makes sense now. I still don't like it, but it just. Because it really didn't have anything to do with anything.
No,
It almost.
I think it was we plucked a line out of the story in order to
Yeah.
give it a real shock value
Well,
for.
and
we're
most
going to
of-
end the series. We're going to end the first part of the series here, and this is the line we're going to give you for the title of the next episode. I think that was a calculated effort into get people to talking about. Oh my gosh! I can't believe they just named an episode that.
And it fits also in a way because even though they go to 1938 to kill Hitler, even though they get thrown off course a little bit because Mel shoots the TARDIS, but the rest of the episode is set in 1938.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not like it was one scene of let's try to kill Hitler and then we go back to present time.
Oh,
Right,
no,
the
no,
rest
no,
of
no,
it's
no.
set
No,
there.
it's-
So
it's-
that makes it okay with
there-
me.
I like the fact that
there's
it's all set
technically-
in Nazi Germany. I thought that was
Yeah.
kind of neat without going into a whole Nazi Germany vibe. You
Yeah.
know?
And without going into an old Nazi Germany story.
And it does also. I mean, there were technically two people there to kill Hitler.
well, yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Mhm.
so
Yep.
I mean, you know, I don't,
And it doesn't humanize Hitler in a way that I was afraid it would by especially getting the tease of you just saved my life, and it was almost like they were going to go a direction where okay, now we've got to fix this because we saved him, we've got to, and I was afraid that it was going to go into this. We're going to focus on Hitler as a character. We're going to humanize him. And you can't do that with a vicious dictator like that. It doesn't work, especially in Doctor Who. Such a light episode or light show as Doctor Who
Yeah.
doesn't get
You can't
edgy and
humanize
dark like
somebody
that.
like that.
And so I was glad that they went the direction with this, and it worked so much better.
I wanted to touch on, like Holly mentioned, the Sonic cane. I really hope they make those as toys for Christmas. I would love
thought
a Sonic cane.
that was one of my other problems with this. I thought the Sonic cane was a little over the top. It was brought
He's in
in
a
to
top
go.
hat
It was
and
brought in to be
tails.
part of the ensemble, but it was. I mean, we talk about the overuse of the sonic screwdriver anyway, and then to make a cane sonic, I thought
liked
that
it.
was.
I thought it was cool.
It was an unnecessary addition that I didn't think needed to be there.
I thought it was
Other than the
fun
fact that he had to give Amy his
Sonic,
and it was going to be out of commission, and so he needed his good old fashioned fix it all, and so
Yeah,
he
needed a
gets a
replacement.
Sonic. Yeah,
But he
gets a
barely
Sonic
used it.
Cane. Well, he uses it 2 or 3 times.
a
but-
couple of times. To,
I mean, he keeps doing getting the readings with it all through the scene where he has it. I mean,
That's how he finds out it's a robot.
Yeah,
with-
exactly.
with
he
people.
uses it a couple times, and he
Hi.
still has it with him and
I'm
doesn't
sorry.
use
I'm
it.
glad you liked it, but I thought it was an unnecessary prop that
Much like the lightning
was a
swords.
little. Yeah. No,
And then-
it was functional. Don't get me wrong.
The
but
long
it wasn't
coats.
symbolic, but it was.
Oh yeah,
I did not like the long coat.
you
I do like the long
were
coat.
all set, and he's going to get that coat off somebody in the military.
I do like
and
the
man,
coat.
as soon as he stepped
We don't
out of
know.
that crop circle, ta-da,
We
new
don't,
coat.
we don't
do
know
like
where
the
he got
coat.
it, but he's back in his tweed by the end of the episode, so I'm okay
was.
with it.
He
He
was.
was.
Yeah, he's back in the tweed.
And in fact, you see his tweed jacket hanging in the
On
TARDIS.
the-
I get the
on the
impression
coat rack.
where
Coat
he
rack.
just came from is where he got the coat.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
by him getting back into the tweed at the end of the episode. That's what made me think that he just came from somewhere where he.
Well, again,
Which
adopted
adds
the
to
coat
which
briefly.
adds to the nice element that he's been on adventures looking for melodies since we last saw him.
Right.
well,
and
they make
maybe
the comment. There
some
were
of the
3 months
novels
span there too.
will fill that time period
No, I'm sure
for
they
us.
Well, I don't need to
And
know where
explain
he
the
got
coat.
the coat from. I really don't care. Ever since
It
we.
looked neat. I liked it.
Well,
It
yeah,
was different.
I
It
like
was-
the coat.
it was-
I don't need a backstory for
It
the
was
coat. It's
too
just a
close
coat.
to David Tennant and Captain Jack for me.
No, I don't think so at all. It was a different color. And
It was a different color, but
a different
cut,
material.
It's
the
not
length.
but it's not an overcoat like the Doctor wore or a waistcoat. No, not a waistcoat. What do they call it?
trench coat.
Yeah, it wasn't. Well, it was.
It
a
was even
trench
longer
coat,
than
but
a
it
trench
wasn't
coat.
the-
No,
it
it
wasn't
was-
the
no.
same. It was more of a. It was more of a militaristic. It's more like Jack's coat,
Yeah.
but a different.
But it
color.
doesn't look anything like
And
it.
it's
just
but it's,
doesn't
well,
have
it's
the
a different, It's a
decorations.
different cut and
No,
style.
it's
too.
a different
It
cut, it's a
doesn't
different
have
style, it's different
it doesn't
material.
Have
Doesn't
the
have the-
little patchy thing.
God, we're
where you-
talking
that's
about
what I'm
fashion.
saying.
Yeah.
The decorations, the military
No, well,
decorations
But
on
it doesn't even have the spot to put them because Jack doesn't have.
Oh,
any,
yeah.
In some of his, he doesn't have the dressings on it. Well, yeah, he does, and all. But anyway, there are
He's
straps
got-
there to put the
Yeah,
put
mine's
the
got.
dressings on.
Mine's got. I have a trench coat with straps.
He didn't
and
even
his
have
doesn't
the
even
straps
have that
on it,
because
yeah.
it's more of a.
But it had the really cool high collar.
It
I
did have
liked
the cool.
that.
It did
That
have the
was
whole.
neat. I like the.
I just
like the
ever
coat
since
a lot.
ever
That was
since
neat.
we've kind of established, and we had to do a little bit of outside the universe history reading to kind of get to that point when I was doing research into my Doctor Who scarf and finding out that the scarves varied in lengths and not only color patterns, that there were actually different
And
scarves
one
as
ended
Tom
up being
Baker's
a
progressive.
scarf and a stunt scarf sewed together.
Yeah, but then realizing, especially now going back and watching, that Tom Baker's outfit does change. Yes, the scarf is fairly constant and the coat is fairly constant, but sometimes he's got a
His
vest,
clothes
sometimes he's
under,
got a
yeah,
tie,
are quite
sometimes he's got an
different, yeah.
ascot, sometimes he's got just the open shirt. And realizing that the Doctor customizes his appearance a little bit throughout each of these, and some doctors don't.
Although I did see online somebody took, and even Colin Baker's doctor had the patchwork coat was always the same, but he didn't always wear the spats. I didn't realize that the trousers were the same, but his tie changed frequently.
Mm-hmm.
He went from a very bushy tie to a more thinner, subdued tie. His shirt underneath was often different color, not much different than the white that he had, but like I think one's like a beige, another one has actual stripes on it. So his under clothes appearance, even underclothes makes it underwear. His clothes that he
Right.
was wearing underneath the coat also varied.
Well,
in
even
different style.
Troughton, even though all of his stuff was in black and white, when he shows up in the 5 Doctors, he's wearing, or
A white
the 3 Doctors, it was a blue shirt.
Yeah, that's right.
In
yes.
the 5 Doctors, it was a white shirt.
Right.
And in the 2 Doctors, it was almost more of a creamish
It was a
tan
cream
color.
shirt, yeah.
So, I mean, just by these
Well,
little
his tie is
things,
slightly different each time.
David
too.
Tennant having a blue and a brown suit that he alternated back and
Yeah.
forth. I'm fine with
The only
Matt
one that
Smith
really
having a
doesn't
different coat.
have
It doesn't
anything
faze me at
different
all.
in the entire run of Doctor Who was Peter Davison wore the same thing.
He wore the same cricket outfit
Yeah.
pretty much through the whole
I
thing.
mean, Sylvester McCoy's
Oh, yeah, his jacket
Even
changed.
even
well, even
Eccleston
his
changed.
sweater evolved. He didn't have the question mark sweater the whole time either.
Yeah. So just having said that, like I said, I don't have an
See,
issue
I
with where
think-
the coat came from or
I think
why did
Matt
he get the
Smith
coat.
does
Yeah.
change, though.
Well,
I don't think he needs to change his jacket to change. But his tie and his shirt change almost every single episode.
The jacket's just a variation on a theme. Tom Baker's
It's an
coat
accessory.
changed colors. Sometimes it's gray, sometimes it's brown, sometimes it just depends on.
And then
Sometimes
one
it's
season
red.
it went boom and said maroon, and then it was burgundy, and then it was burgundy for the rest of
Yeah, it was burgundy for the end of his run.
the
but,
rest of his run.
you know, it's
so
just
was
a
the scarf.
variation on a theme.
I just
I'm
like him
fine with it.
in his tweed jacket.
Nah,
I like him better
I
in a
like
tweed
the coat.
jacket.
You just won't have to go out and buy a coat for your cosplay.
I just won't cosplay as that version of the Doctor.
Is there anything else we could say about this besides the wardrobe choice?
I think
It's a very important part.
I think what's fun is we talked about how it, we started with the whole Let's Kill Hitler theme, but then didn't wind up there. It feels almost like a Simpsons episode in the way that it's structured.
Yeah.
Because Simpson and Futurama too, they always give you here's where we're going.
Oh no!
And then
nope,
it's about
we're going-
4 turns into it before they get to the real
Family
plot.
Guy even does that. To
Yeah.
the point, yeah.
Well, and a
Yeah.
lot of them are starting to do it now. But it kind of felt like that because we open with,
Family Guy's done that
Mel's.
from the beginning.
and I got to be honest,
I did not like Mouse. I did not like Alex Kingston as Melody until the very end. I did not like Melody.
It's hard to adjust to because
it's
of
so
the fact
different.
That, yeah.
The
Yeah.
And she
playfulness
keeps
is still
saying-
there, but
he
it's
keeps
not.
calling her River, and she's like, "Who is this River?"
Yeah, I did not like Melody.
I got to be honest. Mel's didn't pick up on it.
Yeah, I didn't either.
Oh, yeah,
until-
me
and
neither.
I just
Till she regenerated.
I hate to say this, but
duh.
it's because it was a black actress.
Well, and it was
That
by,
just
it was by the fact that they
completely-
put an S on the end. It made it Mel's.
Yeah.
It just.
But in that
Mel
melody
would have been even-
song,
Yeah.
Mel
you know,
S.
I don't know.
it's totally
Mel
there.
S,
Mel's.
The other thing that this episode did was the same thing that the Doctor's wife did. There's always been a contingency of people who said you can't have a black Doctor, you can't have a black actor play the Doctor
Yeah.
because now I think they
Now we
sufficiently
can.
have answered that question, and I think it's fine. I think it's quite all right.
I never had a problem
That
with it to begin
even
with. but-
even within the Time Lord's species, you can change appearance
Well,
in that
pigment
sense
of your
as well.
skin can
Yeah.
change.
And when you think about it scientifically, a regeneration is changing every cell that makes up the
Absolutely.
structure of your being. Of course you can change that.
Absolutely.
Of course you can change gender.
You can change
Which
hair
I know,
color,
you know,
which
is a
obviously
little-
we have.
Yeah, I mean, it totally makes sense. It's nice to see it in practice.
It also subtly evolves the story of the Doctor and thinks outside the box and gives us new approaches to different stories, and that's what I like about this, and especially this new series, is that we're going that direction to expand on, and we don't dry up and have the same style of story,
Constantly.
constantly,
Yeah.
and that's what that does for us. And it's always subtle ways of
Which
doing
it
it.
could
and-
be argued that was part of quote unquote classic Who's.
Oh, what
problem.
about this was a really cool throwback. I absolutely loved this, and I know a lot of people that probably hated this, but when he goes in to talk to the interface of the TARDIS and he needs the communicator,
yeah.
and the
Oh.
first one is Rose, and the second one is Martha, and the third one is Donna. That
Yeah.
was so cool.
That was
and the way
very
he says, too painful.
To guild.
More
guilt.
guilt. Oh, yeah, that was what it was. Guilt. Oh, more guilt. And then, what was Donna? He said, reference.
Even more.
Is there anyone I haven't ruined?
That was
Yeah.
what it was. Is there anyone I haven't ruined? And then when that was another thing,
And
was
Amelia.
we're throwing back to little Amelia, and I thought,
and
oh,
then
this
throwing
is
back
so
the fish fingers
perfect.
and custard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When she's so adamant.
And it was
I'm
almost
just,
heartbreaking
whatever. I'm just
during that part.
I can't remember what she kept calling.
I'm just a
herself,
voice
but-
interface.
That's right. I'm just a voice interface. And then to cut away from her and show the Doctor, and then and then she says fish fingers and custard. And the revelation on his face, I got chills.
It gives
when
him
that happened.
hope.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
getting
it's so
goosebumps
good.
talking about it now. I thought that was so neat, and
it was awesome.
To again acknowledge the Eccleston and Davison eras of the Doctor by throwing Rose in there and throwing Martha in there and
Tennant.
I'm
You
sorry,
said
yeah, Davison, yeah, Tennant, and
David Tennant.
he's so much like Peter Davison. So.
Yeah.
Brainy Specs, the trainers. No, I'm sorry. Yes, Eccleston and Tennant's era just blatantly acknowledged them in the continuum like that was. I loved it. It was fantastic.
And here's a fun bit now. Rule 1.
Oh, we heard two different rules.
We heard 2 different rules. But I'm sorry. More important, Rule 1: the Doctor lies.
All right.
What was Rule 7?
And he
Run.
actually
Was it?
actually says it.
Yeah.
And it's
And that's River's the one later that says Rule 1: the Doctor lies.
the Doctor lies. But to have him say it,
Yeah.
the Doctor lies. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Does that just lend all kinds of credence to
Absolutely.
everything that's gone on? Because it opens up so
It makes
much.
you question everything,
and
too.
coupled with that moment, with the voice interface and all the different companions and how much is there anybody haven't screwed up, it just really meshed well for his character. It's a nugget. It's a tiny nugget, but it was such a cool bit. Now, here's the interesting thing in my mind. There have been all these rumors, even me trying to stay spoiler-free, all these rumors about the new series of Doctor Who. We're not going to get any classic monsters, Stephen Moffat said. And then we get Cybermen. Crazy rumor number 2. Oh, we're going to see Rose and Martha and Donna back in this season. And I thought, whatever.
I'd never heard that rumor.
You'd never heard that rumor?
I'd never
that
heard
was
that rumor.
I heard a
big.
rumor that Rose was returning.
It was
I
all
heard
over the
it.
place. And I was like, no, they're not. Get over it. And then there they were. And I am going on record. I'm making a statement. Rule 1. Stephen Moffat lies. I'm convinced.
Very possible.
Everything he has told us is false.
Yeah.
I've figured the man out. And if he thinks he's going to get a rise out of somebody,
Unless
he's going to lie about it.
I think Stephen Moffat rise, but not as a writer.
No.
Off screen, he lies.
As a
about what's
showrunner,
coming.
he lies. As a
Yeah.
writer, he's very truthful.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which, to me, says River kills the Doctor. Because if he's truthful, he didn't lie. And that was written into this Stephen Moffat written story.
Nah, I don't buy it. I don't.
Then you just don't believe that Stephen Moffat doesn't lie?
I'm not sold on the idea of. I don't know yet.
We'll see where it goes.
We'll get there.
We've
We've got
got five more weeks.
Five more weeks.
more
under
weeks.
us,
We'll see when we get there. We're enjoying the ride right now.
Definitely
That's right.
enjoying the ride.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you are too. As always, you can find us on our travelingthevortex.com, and if you have things that you'd like to say to us, use the feedback button, because that seems to be the most reliable way of us getting it out and regurgitated back to you, although we are human and we forget.
You can send us feedback directly at feedback@travelingthevortex.com if you like to do it that way.
Either way is the best way to contact us, because the
Absolutely.
contact us page on our website sends it to feedback@travelingthevortex.
But we are also on Twitter and Facebook and a Google voicemail number. And
We'd love to have feedback on Facebook too. We accidentally overlooked Phil this week, but yeah, Facebook is a very good way to contact us and get a hold of us, and that's very comfortable for Phil. I think.
Same thing with Twitter.
Yeah, absolutely.
We often see tweets. We might not mention them on the podcast.
Right. A lot of
but
times when you're constrained to 140 characters, you're
it's
probably
hard.
going to get an answer right back then too. Anyway.
Yeah.
So you won't have to wait till the show.
But that is a great way to interact with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
coming up next week, obviously, Friday Night Who will be reviewing the second installment, or segment, if you will, of The Key to Time,
Pirates Planets.
written by Douglas Adams. And then we'll get the next Who episode, the new Who, that weekend, which is Night Terrors.
Yes, I believe that's right.
So
You posted all the episode titles.
I did warn people. That doesn't mean I read them.
How does that work?
When that story broke, here's all the episode titles. I was like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I honestly hadn't seen them until you posted them.
I feel bad now. I warned you not to look.
I still looked.
I know you did.
We know episode titles lie too.
Yes, that honestly, that's what made it okay. Is because I did.
That's more reliable.
I flashed back to the Doctor's wife and thought, well, that one was totally wrong while still being so accurate. So
totally accurate, though. Yeah.
yeah, I'm okay with not reading anything into a title. So, but I think I know who River gets married to at the end of the season.
Off topic, my review of Tangled is up on the website.
Oh, is it? Cool.
If you want to check that out,
Yeah.
it's on there as well.
And I will have.
Glenn has declared this week as movie week.
This is movie week. I'm on vacation this week because the kids' daycare is closed, so I'm staying home, and I didn't have a lot of honeydew on my list, so I'm watching movies and catching up on things that I still need to see.
And I got caught up on a
Editing
couple
those
this weekend. I saw Rise of the Planet of the Apes,
yeah.
which is phenomenal.
Oh,
I
yes.
expect a review, full review.
And I will get a full review
So
on it.
good.
And I went and saw Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
I saw your tweet.
And wow,
Quite
did I
frankly,
like
the
that
best you said possibly of the film series. So.
one. Yeah.
I still like 3 better, but it was really good.
Go back and watch 3 again.
Maybe I need to.
Because I was in the same boat. 3 was my favorite. And then going back and just watching them all, because we just came off of an entire month of Harry Potter viewing, and 3's kind of fallen a little bit for me. I still like it, but there are things now that I can start to pick on a little bit. So. But anyway, I think that'll do it for us,
That's
right?
going to do it for us this week. Until next time, I'm Glenn.
I'm Shaun.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.